BruCast is back, baby.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of BruCast, episode number 12. And if it's your first time watching it, oh, 1 second, guys. There we go. If it's your first time watching, make sure to like and subscribe. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And I mean it, 1,000 subscribers. That means that we finally reach our 100 subscribers mark. Congratulations to BruCast, I guess. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for subscribing, liking, watching. We finally did it. We reached 100 subscribers. Now let's go for the 1K mark by the end of the year. So make sure to turn on the bell, subscribe, like, share, do all this cool stuff. It really, really helps the channel. So before we start, we have new announcements. The first announcement is we have an audio interface. Yes, what that means? It means that the audio quality should be way better now compared to the previous episodes. I'm not sure if you can see it, but we have this nice plug here behind the microphone. As I always say, babe steps, we're always trying to improve the podcast. Every time that we do a new episode, we try to improve a little bit. So yeah, we have this new device here in the studio. But not only that, as you can see behind me, we now are showing more of the merch. We included a t-shirt here in this little merch shrine from our store. So we have basically most of our merch here for now. Talking about the store, please check out the BruCast store. Our store is packed with tons of awesome goodies, from t-shirts to stickers to mugs, all featuring designs that celebrate your love for the show. Whether you're looking to treat yourself or find the perfect gift for a friend or a family member, we've got you covered. We put a lot of love and care into making sure our shop is easy to navigate, and our products are top-notch, so you can buy with complete confidence. Plus, every purchase you make helps our podcast grow and support us to continue doing a great job. So what are you waiting for? Check out our online store right now and find your new favorite piece of BruCast merch. Thank you so much for being a fan, and we can't wait to see you in our store. We have a promo code for you guys who are listening right now. It's BRU10SAVE, BRU10SAVE. The website's bru-cast.com/shop. I repeat, bru-cast.com/shop. All links in the description below, including the promo code for you guys. Talking about BruCast, did you know that we also have a Brew Clips channel? It's called Brew Clips, and on Brew Clips we share the most exciting and engaging moments from our podcast in a shorter format. If you don't have time to listen to the whole thing, or if you simply want to revisit some of the highlights of the show, be sure to check out the Brew Clips channel on YouTube. And while you're there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you never miss a clip. So or you can just search for Brew Clips on YouTube, or click on the link in the description below. All right, so our guest today is Viviane Bicaba. Let's bring her in. 1 second. There you go. How are you doing, Viviane? Oh, we cannot hear you. Sorry, guys.
Hey, is that better?
Yes. Hi, Viviane.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for accepting the invite. And maybe it would be better if you present yourself to our listeners.
Sure. Well, hi everybody. I'm Viviane. I'm a user experience designer. I'm currently working at Sumo Digital in the UK. And before that, I was at Ubisoft Berlin, where I met Bruno.
Yeah.
I like role-playing games, anime, and drawing. And recently, I picked up sword fighting.
What?
Sword fighting.
Really?
Yeah.
This is news for me, guys. So where did you pick that up?
There are a few classes, a few societies in Sheffield, where I am located at the moment, that offer sword fighting classes. The ones I take at the moment, and I started like very recently. That was 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I started rapier and another weapon called the sack, which is vaguely similar in a way to saber, but it's made of leather and wood, so we can actually whack each other without properly injuring ourselves.
Is this like a? Is this a Japanese thing?
No, it's European martial arts.
European martial arts. All right. So you're a warrior now. That's amazing.
I am nothing of the sort. I get my ass kicked.
But you guys like learn like moves and stuff.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
traditional, well, not traditional, historical European martial arts. Like there's also called HEMA. There's a lot of classes and societies that do it all across Europe and the world in general. Specifically, the one I'm taking teaches us a historical form of rapier based on manuals from historical, like actual teachers. Like we have the actual essays written by the guys from the 15th century or 16th century, I don't remember its date. And it's like we learn from that, and it's like here's the form you do and the stuff you do. They also have two-handed sword classes, which, funnily enough, are based on German classes. So all of the words and the names of the forms and the styles are like, oh, that's a German word. I kind of know that word.
That's insane. And but how different it is from what's the name of this other sport? Is Grima? How'd you say it? You know?
Fencing? You mean like the Olympic where you have the
Yeah,
people
yeah, yeah.
in white going?
Exactly. How different
Um,
it is.
so there's a few differences in the sense that so there, if I remember correctly, on the Olympic sport there are different like types of uh, uh, like fencing stuff that look similar because you have
Yeah.
rapier, you have saber, you have épée also, I think, and they
That's
each have
French.
their own. Yeah,
Mm.
they each have their own little specific way that you are supposed to score, and your like the actual weapon is slightly different depending on if it's rapier or saber. Um, the main difference I think that we have is we don't do that as a sport, kind of like we don't score things. We learn the forms that people used to do uh, in historical times, and they didn't use that to do a sport. They use that to kill each other. So there's a lot of stuff that we do where it's like, oh yeah, you like things that, as far as I'm aware, aren't allowed as much in the Olympic sport. Like if somebody tries to stab you with a sword, well, one of the things you can very easily do is just bap the sword away, because a rapier is only sharp on the last pointy bit, basically. Most of the rest of the sword, if you have thick enough gloves, you can just bap it away, and once you've pushed it away, you can then stab your opponent. And we do a lot of uh, um, like Olympic sport is like on a track, on a relatively thin track. We just turn around each other because that's how you would avoid a hit. There was one of the trainer who was like, "Yeah, you don't even need a sword if you just want to avoid being hit. You just step out of the way."
That's insane. Do you have your own sport?
No, not so expensive. I don't know. It's not so expensive, but it's like I think I looked it up and it was 100 something pounds, which is like not a huge amount, but also I don't know if I'm going to keep doing that for a very long time because I just started, and I don't want to invest 100 something pounds into a lump of steel that is then going to like go on my wall, and I'm just gonna, yes, I used to do sword fighting a while.
You never know. Maybe you have an intruder at home and you should defend yourself, you know?
It's not a sharp sword, like specifically not sharpened. We have at the end of the rapiers, they have added like a, basically instead of ending in a point, they
Yeah.
end like that, so that we can actually like whack each other without risking to actually stab each other. Because the point isn't to just go to the sword fighting classes and then come back with actual injuries.
Yeah, I guess so. So who are training to kill for? Who you want to kill? It's just for fun,
Everybody.
right? Everybody. So rapier
No,
is
yeah, it's just for fun.
it's just for fun, yeah. So rapier is the name of the sword or the sport, quote unquote.
It's the name of the weapon, yeah.
The weapon. All right. Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's fancy. It's cool actually. Like the handle, it has is very interesting. Interesting.
Yes.
That's amazing. I remember I used to go to anime conventions back in the day, and they had sword fighting, but it was just craziness. There was no rule whatsoever. It's just teenagers with those piece of foams trying to kill each other. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And that was
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
If rapier is anything like that, it's fun. Yeah.
There's a lot of, well, because we're learning the proper form, so it's a lot more like the basics of a martial art. Like if you went and took like a jiu-jitsu class, they would first teach you like 25,000 repetitions of you grab your opponent, you put your foot, and then you flip them. Okay, do it again and again. And it's basically the same that we do. We have like a few forms that we keep training on the same for the duration of the session. It's like we have our teacher going, no, you crossed your feet too much, and you need to think about the distance that you are from your opponent.
That's so interesting. How did you find it?
That internet.
What a dumb question.
Google is very strong. I basically was looking to start a sport of some kind, and I took a few fitness classes. Well, not a few. I took a bunch of fitness classes at a point at a gym where the people were really nice. But then I realized that I just don't like doing the fitness stuff. Because it's like, wow, we did 25 jumping jacks and then 15 squats. Yay!
So
It's
much
like, that's
fun.
nice.
Yeah.
Like, that's good for your body, but also it's like, it's not fun. And I don't have the best physical fitness shape. So doing something that's physically hard and also I don't have fun doing it, that's just, I don't want to do it. I get out of the session, I am tired and in pain, and I didn't have fun. Why would I, like, unless I really care about my health, which I kind of do, but like not enough to go do something I don't enjoy and that's painful. So now I found something that's fun and still is like physical exercise.
Yeah, it needs to be fun. Otherwise, how are you gonna continue doing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to go to the gym, and then I stopped because it's just I used to go to the gym that was extremely crowded, and I hate it. I hate it because first I was forcing myself to go to the gym. Second, I had to like wait half an hour for each machine. So what I started doing instead, I joined this CrossFit class. And it's way more engaging because first, no one's going to take your machine because you're in the class. Everyone has their own machine at their own time. And because this is the CrossFit, there's a timer and there's a trainer and there's other students and they are all on the same clock and they are always screaming, come on, next exercise. So you just don't have time to think. And every time that I do it, I just get out of there full of energy and feeling alive. It really helps. It really helps.
Yeah.
I also
definitely.
Yeah, yeah. If you do it with other people, like rapier, you do it with other people, right? So
Yeah,
it's
we are like eight something students plus the instructors.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It really helps.
just going to the gym alone, you need to have like I admire the people who are able to do that and able to stick to it because it means that in their head they are so strong just to be able to go to the gym like 3 times a week, get on the machine, do the thing alone. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't do that.
But it's like a snowball. Once you force yourself once, it's extremely hard. The second time, it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit. Every time that you do it, it's just a tiny easier. But then if you take a break for I don't know 1 week, then it all comes back. It's extremely hard again. So you need the momentum, and you need to keep doing. Like you check those bodybuilders, like the people that live for that. They started when they were like 15, and they continue doing it for their whole life. Like it's like they never broke the momentum. So yeah, it's yeah, it's
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't have that self discipline and self motivation to just be like, get on the grind and stay on it. I'm like, nah,
Me
I'm
neither.
tired today. I'm gonna stay home. Oh no, everything hurts now.
Yesterday I had pizza at 1 a.m.
Oh, Bruno.
Oh man, I started watching this documentary about aliens. I was like, okay, I need a pizza and a beer. The greatest. I had the greatest time of my life.
I think it's a good like documentaries about aliens, pizza and beer. They go together.
Yeah. Did you see what happened recently with in the alien topic, right? This guy that came out from the government.
I nope didn't see anything.
It's insane. So there's this guy called David Grush. He was like a high-ranking official from the military in the U.S. And he just filed all the whistleblower documents, and he came forward as a whistleblower, and he basically blew the whistle. He starts saying it's true. The aliens are out, they are out there. Um, the U.S. have been hiding all the crafts from us. There's still going on several reverse engineering programs at the moment that people don't know about, and the U.S. have successfully retro engineered like craft. They created crafts out of the ones that they retrieved from the. So basically, he told us everything that was in the pop culture, right? He said it's true.
Mhm.
And now I think today he's gonna have like a 1 hour interview with a news channel where they're gonna talk more about it. And this is all very interesting. But what's more interesting, I think, is the fact that the Department of Defense allowed him to do the interview, and everything that he all the secret information that he had to give it away to the government in order to be protected as a whistleblower. All this information, secret information, they say it matches. It's all true. So I don't know, Vivian. What do you think about that? It's insane, right?
I'm I'm of the opinion that if aliens came by and saw the Earth, they would go like, nah, and they would turn away and leave. Because we're an okay place, but also at the same time, it's like we're the kind of rowdy neighbor who doesn't really trim the grass, and it's like wild grass everywhere, and your dog keeps barking at like 2 a.m. It's like, do I want to move in with these neighbors? I don't know. But if it turns out that actually there are alien stuff that the US government found, that would be cool. But also at the same time, yikes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like they've kept the stuff secret and have been trying to retro engineer it. If they actually do have it, that means that either they're sufficiently so much advanced from us that we're trying to look at it and it looks like magic, and if the aliens ever get pissed at us, we're fucked. Or it means that the US government is bad at technology, which I don't think is the case.
Yeah.
Or maybe they have secret military tech in the background, but then I would assume they would be better when they go fight wars.
Yeah, but so what David Grush said, this guy that came forward, he said it's like it's so secretive that not even the military knows about it. It's like it's a dark government. They have a dark budget. It's behind the scenes. It's like no most people in the government don't know about it. It's like it's a secret government.
I mean, that's there's a part of me that's like, yes, right, of course. The secret government that even the military leaders don't know about, with the secret budgets that nobody heard about it. And the government is letting you speak about that on live TV and not just like disappearing you like one random night. Right? There's another part that's like, if it's true, well, shit.
I want to believe it.
But yeah,
Vivian, don't make fun of it. I want to believe it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's true. Why they didn't kill him yet? If it's all true, like, why he's alive?
It's either option A, it's only like he has only found 5% of the truth, and they're like, yeah, tell them the bullshit that you found, and we actually have all that in the background that you haven't found. Yeah, make it a scandal, make them believe you have found everything. Or potentially it's just they don't care about it because they're like, oh yeah, that we're done with that like 15 years ago. You can tell them.
Yeah, that's true. So forget about this guy. Forget about David Grush. Do you think David aliens are actually visiting Earth?
I don't know. Honestly, we don't have a way as like regular people to prove whether they have visited or not. And if they have, then they haven't done anything to us. So, or rather, they haven't done anything that's big enough. I mean, there's a few people who say, I was abducted by aliens. But it's like one guy in the middle of a field in Ohio or something.
Like a farmer, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I was abducted by aliens. Like, sure, Grandpa. I don't know. And I don't think until they actually come in and do stuff with us on a scale that matters, that it doesn't really matter.
So what you're saying is that we need to have like a substantial event or a substantial proof.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or rather that it doesn't truly matter if they have visited because they've not left any trace of visiting unless there actually is stuff in Area 51 in the US and they just haven't told us, in which case, holy shit.
Yeah, that's the legend. That's the folklore, right? That's what David Grush says. So I don't know. I think we're gonna figure it out in our lifetime. To be honest, I think before we die, like people of our age, before we die, like we're gonna know because people are we're going to Mars in the upcoming years, right? It's happening with whatever Elon Musk creates, if it's the Starship rocket or whatever, like. I think we're going to Mars, and if we start like traveling between planets, at some point we're gonna kind of notice spacecrafts, I guess.
So here's the thing: we have already the means by satellites and the various NASA missions that were sent out into space. They've already like scanned out beyond Mars and further than that. They haven't found anything that's like, here's a spacecraft flying through the screen of the like Voyager or whichever was the one that went super far beyond Pluto, and then we lost track of it. They haven't found anything. If we want to find traces of aliens, it's gonna have to be outside of the solar system.
Yeah.
And so far, we don't have the means to get beyond the solar system. We barely even have the means of going to Mars by with like a manned mission. We don't even have that yet. We have theories and plans of going to Mars. I think probably in our lifetimes we will go to Mars, unless Elon Musk gets bankrupted by investing in bad ideas on social networks. But probably we will go to Mars. Will we go further than Mars in our lifetimes? I don't think so. Because we're gonna get to Mars and people are gonna be, whoa, Mars! Let's go check what's there first.
I agree. I agree. I think Mars is gonna be the next big thing for the next 100 years, 200 years. Maybe after that, humans start thinking about going other places. But Mars is the next destination. I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to the moon as well. They have this Artemis program at NASA. Have you heard about it?
No, I've not heard of it.
So is all about going back to the moon. They wanna build a space station around the moon, and they wanna build a space station in the moon. Oh, sorry, on the moon, which they're planning to send rockets to Mars. So it's gonna be like a two-way stop. So the plan is in the future they're gonna have this two-way stops to get to Mars. First you go to the moon. It's like the airport. You get into your new ship and your rocket, and then
You
you
take
go
a
to Mars.
shuttle to go to the moon.
Yeah, something like that. So it's exciting. All those plans, they are exciting. Whether they happen or not, I don't know. But
I'm not a super I have a few friends who are like super buff of like everything space, who watch the various launches of SpaceX and everything, and who are really like, space. Me, I'm just like, I'm one of those people who are like, yeah, but what if we fix the problems on Earth instead of going to space?
that's. I think they're both valid. They're both valid. So since you mentioned, I don't know how we start talking about aliens in space, but since you mentioned the problems here, I wanted to ask you. You're French. Um, what the fuck's going on in France?
Oh boy. There's a lot of things happening and have been happening since a bit of time.
All right.
We can say it started. I don't super get into politics, so maybe I'm not the right person to
That's
talk
okay.
about all of this. I don't
That's
get into
okay.
politics because it gets depressing to me. Because you look at Party A and Party B, who are supposed to be opposite, and then they actually do the same shit. And the people who seem like they're actually going to bring in change have no chance of accessing power. Depressing. But basically, the recent protests in France are about the change to the age of retirement.
Mm-hmm.
They want to push it back again, and people have been protesting because there's a lot of um, other things that have to come into consideration with that. Because if you increase if you push back the actual age of retirement, that means people need to uh, uh, save up money for their pension for a longer time in order to have a full pension once they retire.
Mm-hmm.
Except a lot of people who are going to be involved in that advancement of the retirement age don't actually have that many years saved up and will not have that many years saved up, which means that they will have to retire after the actual age of retirement. And there's also the question of so I don't remember what age they actually advanced it to. I think it's 67, maybe. I'm not sure. But people were saying, if you work until that age, what kind of life are you going to have afterwards? Because if you've worked that much, are you still going to be healthy? Are you still going to be actually able to enjoy your retirement? Or are you just going to be a person who's been broken by their work, stress, and everything else, and just trying to get a retirement and you're just not in a bad living situation, not in a in a bad living situation and health and everything. And people were protesting to say, don't push back the retirement age. Then the government has a special uh, um, law provision, basically, where they can say, actually, we're just gonna do it anyway. Um, and they just did it anyway. And now people are angrier. Is it gonna end? Probably eventually people will get tired, maybe. But yeah, it's just.
Oof, man.
There
For how?
was at work we had a few people who came by to talk to us about pension scheme and life insurance, and they were basically telling us that if you want to have a nice retirement once you are 60 something, you need to start saving that much percent of your salary now in order to have like a nice sum once you retire. And when they were talking about life insurance, they were saying, oh, that's the money in case something happens to you before you actually retire, that we're going to give to your family and your loved ones and the people who depend on you, your children, if you have any. Um, and they asked a question that was like, what's the probability that you will die before you actually get to retire? And it's 1 in 20 chance that you get a life thing, well, rather a life ending event before you retire. And a colleague and me were talking about, well, it looks like pension and retirement seems kind of fucked. Maybe I will rely on the 1 in 20 chance that I die before I make it to retirement.
I mean, it's not. You could do that, but it's not very smart, right? I mean, if you die, you're dead, and so what happens to the money? It goes to your family and friends,
Yeah,
family,
it goes to your family, children, people who would be depending on you.
Oof, man, that's insane. I mean, it's a risk, right? So you need to choose what you want to do. So how long this thing is going on in France?
It's been months now.
Months, okay.
Uh, yeah, I feel like in the recent years there's a lot of very long protests in France where the government says, yes, we'll fix the thing, and they do that much, and so that then they can say, oh no, we've actually done the thing, why are you still protesting? We're going to send the big police to arrest the protester. And it's just it's looking bad. There's a lot of stuff that makes you go,
Yeah. Did you
it's
see what?
bad.
Did you see this interview with Macron? Right, Macron, the president from France.
Yeah,
He was like
I
giving.
again not following politics.
No,
Very
no, no,
depressing.
no, no, me neither. But this was insane. It was news everywhere. Like he was giving an interview. I have no idea what this interview was about, and he had a very expensive watch. I don't know, 30,000 euros watch, and he was talking, and I think he was addressing some of the riots and whatever's going, like what the protests that are going on in France, and he realizes in the middle of the interview that he's wearing the super expensive watch. So what he does, he continues talking like nothing happened. He moves his hands underneath the table, takes off the watch, put it in his pocket, and then brings his hands back up and continue giving the interview like nothing happened. And everyone noticed, right? And it was news everywhere. It's like, what a douchebag.
Yeah, there's a lot of the president's popularity in France has been steadily going downhill. Like, and I think Macron especially has been very polarizing in the things that
Yeah.
he has said to people about like unemployment and difficulty leaving, or the promises he made when he was campaigning and that he didn't deliver on, and people have. I think he might be one of the least popular French presidents of like the last 15 years, because I've from everything I knew about French politics, there's the last president that I kind of felt that people kind of liked, even if he did not good stuff in hindsight. But he had, at least he was popular, and people kind of liked him. It was Jacques Chirac, and that was, I want to say, 20 years ago.
In the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
All
even
right.
then, when he got elected the second time, people were like, "We didn't vote for you. We voted so that the far right wouldn't pass."
Oof.
And that's like, yeah, I don't think presidents have like steadily just been less and less and less and less and less popular as time has gone. And it's just, yeah, maybe we should change the way we do democracy, and or not elect people who like make it all about their personality and being a figurehead of the government and being like, yes, me, the president. It's like,
Yeah, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. We need to find a better solution, like we as society. I don't have an answer for it, but whatever we have right now is just not working. Maybe it worked like 20, 30 years ago, but nowadays it's just stupid. It just looks stupid. Yeah.
I think it's still functioning because we don't really have a better alternative that works at the scale of a country like France that has
Mhm.
60 million plus inhabitants. People mention the kind of democracy that they have in Iceland, which where people citizens are actually actively, well, a lot more actively implicated in the decisions. They have referendums, which is the people get to vote on the laws and stuff, and actually say, yes, I want this law to go through, or not, keep it back. But that works because Iceland has like, I don't know, a few 100,000
three
citizens.
three people. Why
I
did you?
think they have like several 100,000 citizens, but not that much.
But why did it this approach wouldn't work in a bigger country?
Just because, yeah, just the sheer scale of making it scale up. There's a lot of things that once you scale it up, it just doesn't work in the kind of managing stuff, you know? If you have a
Mm-hmm.
very small team of 5 people, you can have one manager who just talks to everybody.
Yeah.
But if you try to do the same thing with a team of 50 people, then it doesn't work as well because you would need at best 5 managers per 10 people that each talk to the people and then have to talk together. And it just, organization wise, it doesn't work as well. And also, I think the governments don't really want to make it happen because there are ways that it could happen potentially, right? Like we could, maybe not as much as Iceland, but maybe like just a little bit, just a little bit of it. Like
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
some of the stuff that works and see if we can't put it in our stuff and make it work. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Me neither. But the fact that Iceland is a smaller country, I think it helps. I think
Yeah.
smaller tribes in general are easily, as you mentioned, easily manageable, and people feel more comfortable as well. Like I remember I went to New York once. It was intense, but it was overwhelming. I mean, it was a fun and cool experience, but I would never live there. It's just so overwhelming. It's just people on top of people. It's so much chaos and noise. It's not and it's not a place for you to grow up and be happy. Like maybe you go there to pursue your dreams and when you got them, like get out of there. I read somewhere that people who live in cities, they are they die 5 years sooner, 5 to 10 years sooner, something like that. It's just too much people together. It's just, that's not how the human race evolved to live. You know, like we need to chill a little. I don't know.
No, I kind of agree that there's a lot of, even when you take the idea of uh, a government making a policy for the entire country,
Hmm.
there are so many differences between spaces in the country. If you take, I'm going to talk about France, but it works also for the United Kingdom. You
Yeah.
have like one big city that attracts a lot of economy, a lot of business, and that has a lot of infrastructure. And then you have a few smaller cities. Like for example, for Paris, for France, it would be Paris, and then you would have cities like Bordeaux and Lyon. For the UK, it would be London, which is the big city where everything
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and then you have slightly smaller cities like Manchester and Liverpool and places like that, where it's like, okay, smaller cities, but they still attract a bunch of people. Then you have way tinier cities where the big policies of the government are like, how do we make that work? We don't have the same amount of like business that comes to our city. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have everything. But very often governments make like big policies that apply to everybody. And it's like there are so many different cases. Maybe we need smaller countries that
Yeah. Yeah.
deal
Yeah.
with their own stuff just in their region.
Mm. I have a friend. He was in Paris this weekend. He saw Wonder Woman.
Nice.
Gal Gadot, something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
actual actress.
Yeah. Yeah. The actress.
Nice.
Yeah. He was like, "Wow, was that Gadot?" And he started like searching for it on the internet. And what? As she asked like the Siri right on this iPhone, like, "Where is Gal Gadot right now?" And said she's in Paris. I don't know how Siri had this information, but turns out, yeah, he saw Wonder Woman. That's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think the most famous person I almost saw was nah. I've never seen him. I've never seen a famous person from up close or far away.
Lost one?
Nah, I don't go to concerts or signing events or whatever. Yeah. So I watch them on TV, and that's good enough for me.
All right, all right. I saw. I went to the Gamescom, the German game convention, like a few years ago, and for whatever reason, Angela Merkel was there. I was
Yeah,
like,
because
oh,
it's a really big event in Germany, and
yeah,
it has a huge impact internationally for Germany as well.
yeah, yeah, makes sense. Um, so, Vivian, I want to
Yes,
ask
that's me.
you, yes, what have you been playing late? What have you been playing lately?
So I got a Game Pass subscription because it was
Nice.
a Christmas present from our work. Was they gave us a subscription to our uh, console or Game Pass of choice. So I
Yeah.
took the PC one, and I've been making I've taken full advantage of it
Hmm.
because it's free. There's a lot of good games on it, and you get to try games that you would be like, ah, maybe. Like you look at the price tag on the game, and it's like
Yeah.
70 quids, and you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna like that game. So
Yeah.
should I buy it? But with Game Pass, you get to play the full game for like nine something, 9.99 or something like that a
Yeah.
month,
Hmm. Hmm.
which makes it a lot more affordable. And I've been trying out a bunch of different games. Um, Lately, I've been playing
One
Redfall.
second. One second. For those who do not know, what is the Game Pass?
So the Game Pass is a subscription service from Microsoft.
Yeah.
There's a Game Pass on PC and there's a Game Pass on Xbox, and I think there's a third one that's like both at once, and you can play Xbox games, some Xbox games on PC. And it's a subscription service. You have a catalog of game that you have full access to. You just have to click download them, play them, and that's it.
So basically, it's Netflix of games from
Uh,
Microsoft.
yeah, kind of. Except I don't think they have, like Netflix. Netflix produces its own shows for Netflix. I don't think Game Pass has Game Pass specific games that are made for Game Pass. They like take games from other people who say, "Hey, put my game on Game Pass," and that's how it works. Yeah, it's kind of like Netflix for games.
All right. So what games have you been
Um,
playing? All of them.
so lately, I've tried playing a bunch of a game. I forgot the name of that really cool game with the music and ah the game that people said was like a Jet Set Radio. Give me a second because I've got to
Jet
find
Set
it.
Radio. All right.
Uh, ah, that's the game that they didn't announce. They didn't do like trailers and everything for it. They just like dropped the game and then Hi-Fi Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush. Okay. I never heard
Yeah,
about
I
it.
finished that game. Really cool game. I recommend it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm still playing it because I want to finish the new game plus on it.
So
I
what it is about?
Yeah.
I am looking at some pictures. Let me share the screen. So I'm looking at some pictures. It's really colorful. It's like cell shaded,
Yes.
and it has this anime vibe, but also like into the Spider-Verse vibe with all those comic patterns. That's really cool. It looks good.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a really cool game. I recommend it. It's a beat them up
Mm-hmm.
slash rhythm game, kind of. Um, you play as I don't remember the name of the hero, but the main character is has basically the power to sense the rhythm of the world, and if you time your attacks with the rhythm, that's everything in the world has the same rhythm, like the environment and the background and the music has like the same BPM and everything like pulses at the same time. And if you manage to match that with your attacks, you get to do cooler attacks, you increase your combo meter, and you're fighting an evil organization with the power of music. It is indeed very, very anime. Extremely very anime.
Looks fun. Looks fun. It reminds me this
Yeah.
how it's called again? The Cadence of Hyrule into the Necrodancer, the Legend of Zelda edition. You know this game?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't play it. I saw a bit of it, but yeah. I think there's some of that where yeah. The nice thing about Hi-Fi Rush is even though it has like rhythm game elements, if you miss the rhythm, you don't like it doesn't break your game, right? You can play fully off rhythm and you can still get to the end of the game. That's fine. But if you play on the rhythm, you get so much cooler stuff. You get cool combos, you do more damage. The music also like builds up if you manage to do like a combo on the rhythm. You get like extra tracks, and the music becomes cooler and cooler. It's a
I'm gonna
really
take
nice
a
game.
look. It looks good. I'm gonna take a look. So how much is the how it's called again? Xbox Pass, right? Season Pass?
Yeah,
No,
Game Pass.
Game Pass. Yeah.
Game Pass. I think it's 8.99 or 9.99, but less than 10 euros or pound per month.
That's worth it because this game alone, I just checked on Steam,
Yeah,
is 20.
yeah,
So poof, it's worth it.
definitely. And they have, I think they have a trial period
Mm-hmm.
of a week or a month. I don't remember, but
Mm-hmm.
they have a trial period. So I'm not employed by Microsoft, but it really is such good value for what you get.
I know that some TVs nowadays they come, depending on the TV, of course, right? They come with this, the pass, the Game Pass already installed in the TV. They have an app for it. All you need is the subscription and the game controller. Have you heard about it? It's insane. Like nowadays, you don't even need a console anymore; just a good internet connection.
Yeah, there's a few TV. I know the TV that my sister has at her home is what they call a smart TV, where it has apps installed on the TV, so you could
Yeah.
watch Netflix, you watch Amazon Prime, YouTube, whatever on the TV without like connecting a PC to the TV or doing anything. Just with your remote, you just navigate, get on YouTube, you put on a video, and it doesn't seem that far fetched that they would just go, yeah, Game Pass now.
Yeah. I think it's amazing. I purchased the Xbox, the PlayStation 5, right? I'm one of those. I got it. Vivian, it was so hard to get it, but I got it because it's the scalpers, right?
Is
I'm
it
not.
because you're a Sony fan? Are you a Sony fan?
What? No, I like them all.
A Sony fanboy.
Even if I could, I would have them all, right? I have the PlayStation, I have the Switch, and I'm thinking about the Game Pass. You're selling it well, you know, and maybe I will give it a try. But what I wanted to say is like the PS5 is so massive, it's so big. You probably seen pictures like
Yeah.
it's like a big computer. You have one, don't you?
I don't. I have
Get-
a
get-
PS4.
Get one. It's worth it. It's amazing. I just finished. I'm getting excited. What I wanted to say is, it's so big, and with the Game Pass, you don't need the console anymore. Like maybe you just buy a new TV which has the Game Pass installed, and it's so much better.
Yeah, there's a lot of. It depends on how your connection is, because a lot
Yeah.
of the streaming services for games rely on you having a nice connection,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people who don't have access to a nice connection. But even for those people, I think you can build a PC just for gaming, just
Yeah.
with the right parts for gaming, make it a really small form factor, and just have a Game Pass subscription, and it will be more worth it than buying a brand new console plus the games on it.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure. Um, since we're talking about gaming, you mentioned that you work at Sumo Digital, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. How cool is that?
it's a really cool company. They're one of those companies that are surprisingly big, but a lot of people have not heard about it. There's a lot of people when I told them, "Oh yeah, I work at Sumo Digital," they're like, what did they do?"
Really?
Yeah. But then I tell them, "Oh yeah, they did Sonic Team Racing. They did Little Big Planet Sackboy Adventure, I think is the one. And they did a lot of work for other people, either making missions. They did a bunch of missions for Hitman. Um, they did a bunch of contract work, which means that they're not super well known for the project that they've done. They don't have a big Sumo Digital license, like you could say Ubisoft has Assassin's Creed and Prince of Persia, and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's Ubisoft. EA has Battlefield and stuff. No, it's not EA.
They have sorry, Little Big Planet. That's a big known brand,
That's
right?
not their list. That's not their license. They got
Oh, okay.
the license from Media Molecule, I think is the original IP owner. They did one game that was fully Sumo Digital, and I don't know. I'm not aware of if we're making another one or not.
All right. Okay, because I'm going through the through their website, and they just have like this tab called games, and they display all the games, but they don't give any explanation, you know. So I thought, well, that's their game, you know. For Forza. Wow, they developed Forza. So
I think they also partially did some work for Forza, because I think Forza is owned by somebody else.
all right. Yeah, but that's amazing. Congratulations. So for those who don't know, Sumo Digital, it's a game developing company in the UK right now, right?
Yeah, and in a lot of other places, as it turns out.
Really?
Um,
Oh, sorry, Vivian.
they
Before we go forward, please let's make sure that whatever we're talking about, we are not
Oh yeah,
representing the company, right? Our opinions are our own. Just to make it sure.
yes,
All right. Okay.
fully, completely. I am not. I have not been sent by Sumo Digital. Nobody from HR and or admin or anything else is aware that I am doing this.
All right. So now that this is clear, you can go. You can continue.
Um, what was I saying? Yeah, Sumo has a bunch of studios, in a lot of places around the world. I think we have a bunch of studios in the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
We also have studios in India. We have studios in Canada and in the US. Um, I think we also have a studio somewhere in Eastern Europe
If you
or in
don't know,
Poland.
I don't know. Let me check. So, oh yeah, they have here on the right
Yeah,
side. So,
we have Pixel and Game in, or rather, we're working. We absorb them into Sumo, and they're in Poland. So yeah, there's actually a bunch of Sumo Digital studios all across the world. Some of them are called like Sumo something, like we have Sumo Digital Pune, but
mm-hmm.
there's also other studios that still kept their name. Like the Chinese Room is owned by Sumo Digital. Um, Pixel and Game, as I mentioned before. Timber Games in Canada is also owned by Sumo Digital, but still kept the name Timber Games. So yeah, it looks like a small-ish thing when you say, "Oh, it's Sumo Digital. They did work for hire for several licenses, and they have like a few projects that they did on their own, and then they have 10 studios across the world."
Including the so in the UK is the headquarters basically. You are
Yes.
working on the headquarters of Sumo
Yeah.
Digital. Hell yeah! Can you talk
We're
more
in
about
Sheffield.
Sheffield? That's the name of the city.
Yes.
That's cool. How long have you been working there?
It's been 2 years now.
2 years.
In exactly 1 month, it will have been 2 years that I came to the UK.
And so yeah, you're gonna have to have a celebration or something, right? Like 2 year celebration. You don't do that?
No,
Come on.
you celebrate. I just moved to a new place.
No, not that, but like the anniversary at the company, you know.
No, I don't think I'm gonna do anything. They do send us a pin to say, "Hey, you've been in the company for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, etc." There's people who've been in the company since 15 years ago.
Wow. Oh wow. Okay. Okay. That's dedication. Did you see what they do at Blizzard? They send swords and shields and all quite kind of equipments. Did you see that?
I didn't see that, but that's really cool. We get care packages for like a few times during the year, like for Christmas, Easter. We got one recently for mental health awareness month. We also got one for Pancake Day. There was a pancake kit where you just had like a add add water and make pancake, and they had a pancake contest on the internal website.
That's fun. Did you win? Because I know you know how
No,
to. You know how to cook. Come on, you're like a master chef.
I know how to cook, but I don't like. First, I haven't baked a lot of pancakes in my life, and second, it was less about making nice pancakes and more about making a cool piece of content about making pancakes.
Oh, okay. It's like you had to be like this TikToker. Hi guys, I'm here. Make a pancake, something like that.
Yeah, a little bit. There's a few people who did like very cute videos where they made the pancakes for their kids, or there was one of my colleagues who made like a full like little stop motion making pancake kind of video, and that's really cool. But also, I was like, I don't have time for that. I'm gonna make the pancakes and I'm gonna eat them, and I'm gonna be happy about that.
Of course. And you cannot beat kids. If you have kids and dogs and stuff like that, like, dude,
Yeah.
you cannot, yeah, you're lost, you know. It's over.
Like, I'm a person and I made pancakes. Woo!
You have a cat.
Yeah, I do. But also, I could have held my cat while I was flipping the pancakes, but it's just it's too much work.
Too much
And
work. I agree.
The I don't remember what the prize was, but in my mind I remember going, all of that work for that. Nah, it's good. I'm good. Never mind. I'm good. I'm good. It's fine.
What?
People are having fun.
You
People
missed.
are having fun doing that. It's fine.
You miss the prize of being the queen of pancakes at Sumo Digital. What are you talking about? It's the best prize in the world.
I think they had an actual. I don't remember what the prize was actually, but they had an actual prize.
All right.
But I just went, nah, it's fine. I'm good. I don't need that. It's good. Let people who want the thing and who feel like competing actually get into the competition and do their best. I was just like, yeah, nah, I'm good.
All right, serious talk now, Vivian. So you're working at Sumo Digital.
Yes.
What game are you working on?
I cannot tell.
No. I waited the whole interview for this moment. Okay, bye guys. It's been a nice talk.
Thanks everyone. See you next week. No, I can't tell you anything. The game hasn't been announced. I cannot tell you anything about any possible upcoming dates and or not. I can tell you, it's a very vague hint that we're working with some very cool licenses, and that part of the license that we're working with has made a few videos that aren't about our game and are about something else, but our game was in the background of their videos, and we were like, that's our game, it's recognizable. Ah! But yeah, I cannot tell you more about this game. It has not been announced. There's been a few leaks by people on the internet that haven't fully made the connection to what we're actually doing, and we've been told not to comment on the leaks. So I'm just looking at them going, yeah.
You're not helping
Try
me.
again.
You're really not helping me.
I'm sorry.
But it's okay. I understand. So anyway, congratulations. I hope the game is good.
Yeah, it's cool. I can tell you it's a really cool game. Whenever it releases, I will tell you that it has released, and you will see, or even when they release the trailer, I will tell you, here, the trailer has released. Have a look. It's really cool. And they've got like some cool extra content that will go along with the release of the trailer. They showed us a video that they did where they interviewed the composer and the other people who made the music, and it suddenly felt like, wow, this is an actual game that we're working on. This is an actual proper thing. Wow.
Music, composer. So you guys are developing High Five Rush 2?
I can tell you, no, we are making a game that has music in it.
Oh! All right. Okay. Let's move on. We cannot talk about this game, but what we can talk about is another huge IP. You work with Nintendo. You work on Mario versus Rabbids, right? If I'm not, yeah, we can talk about that, right?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, the game has released. Everything has released. It's fine. We can talk about it.
So, yeah, tell us, how was the experience at working like with a Nintendo IP at Ubisoft? Like, how was this whole thing? Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was really great. I wasn't working directly with Nintendo because I was working more like with the game designer and the UI designers to work and on making the extra content that we were creating for the DLCs clearer. Because I didn't work on the main game, I only worked on the well, basically everything that was post content. So we had a pack of DLC maps. We had a PvP. I think it was free download, and then we had a whole complete extra adventure DLC that was with Donkey Kong. But it was really fun, and it has been one of my best experiences working on the game. Especially with I got the chance to go to Milan and actually work with the designers, uh, like like because I began to work in Paris, and then they sent me to Milan for a little while because I needed to work with the game designers in person, and it's much easier when you can take your little notebook, walk to the table of a designer and go, hi, explain to me your game mechanic, how does this work, what do we need. And there was new content that we were introducing, recommendations from the editorial team based on how the main game had been received. They told us, hey, when you're doing the Donkey Kong DLC, watch out for this, watch out for that, and everything. The collaboration with Nintendo was both very interesting and challenging at the same time, because they had a lot of trust for us. Like, they were like, "Oh, you want to do new game mechanics? Sure, go ahead." But they're at the same time very protective of their IP and their characters, and we encountered some difficulties when it came to, like, "Oh, do we get to change that thing about the character?" And Nintendo was like, "Nah." Like, yeah, but it would make everything more readable and better. Nah, figure out another way.
Of course not. You're trying to change the design from Mario. Are you crazy? You cannot do that. Okay. But were you trying to change Mario's design?
We weren't trying to change Mario's design. We were trying to use things that Nintendo didn't that Nintendo had done, but they didn't consider it canon, so we weren't allowed to use it. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about
Bowsette.
that.
You're talking about Bowsette.
Nah, that was way before Bowsette.
But something like that, like something that was not officially canon.
No, something that was in a Nintendo game, and they
all right.
said, this is not part of the Mario canon that we want to consider, so you can't use that, actually, sorry. But it was in an actual Nintendo game that was released, and we were like, can we use that? And they were like, nah, don't, figure out another way. And we figured out some other ways to tackle the problems. So that was all right. And again, I didn't work directly with anybody from Nintendo. I was just, people would come by and say, we showed the thing to Nintendo and they were very happy about this and that, but they asked us to consider this and that. It's like, wow.
All right. And it was all in Japanese, the feedback?
Oh, I think it was in English. I,
I'm
again,
joking.
didn't read it.
I'm joking. But so if someone buys the DLC, like the Mario vs. Rabbids DLC, the Donkey Kong DLC, that's the one you worked on, right?
Yeah.
What can they look for and say, haha, that's what Viviane developed?
So there's a few things. Specifically, I think my favorite bit, and the bit I'm most proud of, is the very last boss fight. This boss has a specific mechanic where he is invulnerable for a while, and you have to do a specific interaction in order to make him vulnerable and be able to actually damage him with your regular attacks and your regular weapons. How the fuck do we show that without actually writing invulnerable to damage on the thing?
You're talking about this big rabbit that wears the Donkey Kong tie.
Yes.
All right, all right.
He is the main baddie in the Donkey Kong DLC. And you fight him, I think, 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
2 times for sure, maybe 3. And in each of these boss fights or mini boss fights, there are specific mechanics, and it was like, how do we make the players understand these mechanics without actually showing them or like writing a tutorial panel somewhere? Watch out for the invulnerability of the boss. And a huge part of that was I got the chance to work closely with the VFX artists,
Mm-hmm.
and we used a lot of uh, the way the VFX worked and the things they showed to be like, yeah, we're gonna put like a shield around the boss while he's invincible, and when you try to hit him, the shield just doesn't go away, just boings the attack. And when you want to aim at this thing, we're gonna show like a sign like it's gonna explode and do more damage. And my favorite part, which is it's a small thing, but we managed to like slide it in at the last minute. In the very last boss fight, you can't do damage to the boss for a time, and we're like, how do we show that on the boss fights on the boss's HP bar? And the solution we found was to make it look bugged. So if you look at the final boss fight, there's a point where you can see his life bar has like glitches, like visual glitches all around it. And at the very right after we had released the DLC, we had um, feedback from the streamers and influencers that we'd sent and like early preview versions of the game to, and our community manager and stuff like gave us back, like sent the teams extracts from those streams and from the people who are playing, so like, here, look at their reaction and everything. And I think my favorite was looking at a streamer who actually got to that point in the boss fight and was just like, what? What's going on? Why is it bugged?
He didn't realize that it was. He thought it was like a real bug.
No, I mean, I guess afterwards she managed to like go on with the rest of the boss fight. But that was the intention. That was to make players go like, "What the fuck is up with that? What's going on? This is weird." Because we can't just show them. This means that the boss fight is invulnerable to damage. Do not try to hit the boss while he is invulnerable. Like, you don't want to have a whole chunk of tutorial like that in the middle of your very exciting boss fight. So we had to be like, make the players question things, and so that they can associate that, oh, it didn't work because it's bugged.
And that's good UX, right? The player understood immediately that what was going on, or maybe he not immediately, but after a few seconds, and you didn't have to explain anything, like,
yeah,
in a written form.
That's the ideally a good user experience is, well, it also depends on what specific kind of user experience you want to do, because sometimes you do have to explain. Sometimes it's just too complex to try and make it look understandable, like at a glance with just VFX and animations and stuff. Sometimes you do need to have, alright, here's the game rules, here's how it works, you're gonna have to do this and then that and then that. And as long as you can make it clear enough and the players can understand it, even though you had to rely on text, I don't think that's bad UX. As long as you don't leave the players confused or uncertain of what they can or cannot do.
So since then, I think the sequel, Sparkles of Hope,
yes,
have been released. How proud are you? You didn't work on this one, right?
Not at all. But I'm so happy for them.
Why? What?
I looked at it. I haven't played it. I believe it's a good game because I believe in the team that made it.
Nice answer. Yeah, nice answer.
But it looks like a very good game. I know that they did a few changes on how the game was previously. Like before, you had to move in a grid. Now you're a little bit more freeform in the way you can move your characters on the tactical combats. and I looked at a few videos of people streaming. I didn't watch all of it because I want to buy the game for myself eventually to be able to play it.
Bullshit. How long ago it has been released? You're not buying it. It's been
I need
years.
to, the problem is I need to buy a new Switch, or at least new Switch controllers, because both of my Joy-Cons have died.
Oh, the Joy-Cons are
So
horrible. Yeah.
I need to buy new ones in order to be able to play. But there's like a shortage, or they're very expensive everywhere, and I'm not gonna spend like 50 quids buying just the controllers and then buying the game, because that's too much money.
It
So
is.
I'm waiting and hoping for like a discount on the controllers or second hand that I can find. But yeah, it's just so much money for just the controllers.
And they're
That's why I
so
haven't played
shitty.
it. That's why I haven't bought Zelda either, because I don't have a controller. There's no point in buying the game full price when I can't actually play it.
Makes totally sense. And I'm with you. The Joy-Cons are so shitty. Like the Switch is great. The Nintendo platform, I love it. The games are great. But the Joy-Cons, man, they're so unreliable. So unreliable. Did you know when I bought the original Switch, I had this how it's called again? The Drift? The Joy-Con
Yeah.
Drift? And Nintendo had I contacted Nintendo and they were like, okay, don't worry, just send it to us. We're gonna fix the problem and send you back. And I was like, it was very like early on, right? I don't even think the term like Joy-Con drift was catching on. It was before that. I sent it to them, and they were like, "Oh, we tested your controller," and they sent it back, and they didn't repair, they didn't do anything. Like, yeah, that's the controller's fine, and so my solution was at the time like I'm never playing it on the dock. I always play it on handheld because when you're playing it
Yeah.
handheld, you don't have the drift. And since then, I just play it handheld. For me, the Switch is a handheld controller. I never dock it because I just can't basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have one controller that has some drift, but not too much that it's a problem, and the other controller just doesn't work anymore. Just
Really?
doesn't work. So I need to buy basically just buy two new Joy Cons, and that's too much money.
And they just released the new Joy-Cons on those pastel colors. You can buy it. It's the same Joy-Con with new colors. What are you waiting for? They're making so much money out of this shit. It's ridiculous.
It's fine. I think every console maker makes a shit ton of money out of like giving out putting out rather like slightly tweaked new versions of their controllers or their console. I mean, the PS4 that I have is I think the 25 years or whatever 40 years of Sony PlayStation, the blue one. It's a really
Ooh.
cool design. I got it at a discount, which is why I bought it.
I'm looking at it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's really nice. So going back to Mario, have you seen the Mario movie?
No, not yet. I'm trying to get a few friends and colleagues here to go see it, because I don't like going to the cinema alone, especially for a movie like Mario. I don't want to like go alone, sit in the cinema, whoop, and then be like, "Well, that was Mario. Great."
It's a good movie. I recommend it. It's really really fun.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
It's still showing at my local cinema. So if I can't motivate people to go see it, then I'm just gonna go alone. It's fine.
I would say even if even alone it's worth it. They have so many scenes. I won't spoil anything, but that so many scenes that look like the game is just like instant. You have those instant hits of nostalgia. It's beautiful.
So I do wonder if that would work on me, because I haven't played any Mario game actually.
Really?
The first Nintendo console I've had has been the Switch, and I bought the Switch for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I played Breath of the Wild, and then like 3 or 4 other games on it, and then I put my Switch down and didn't touch it again.
How
So
dare you? Sorry, go on, go on.
I've played like a couple like levels of Mario games when I went to other friends' house and like, oh, let's play Mario whatever on the SNES or whatever, and that's all my experience with Mario and Nintendo, and I'm not like everything that people are like, oh, they're re-releasing Metroid Prime, blah blah blah, and I'm like, cool.
Vivian,
I'm happy for you.
you worked on a Mario game,
Yeah.
and you don't care about Mario. It's good. It's good. Some of the games are better than the others, but give it a try if you can. If you ever repair the Switch or something like that, it's really fun.
Yeah, I have Mario Odyssey on my to buy eventually when the price is lower list. But yeah, I haven't. I'm not like the nostalgia of a lot of games is fully lost on me because I didn't have a lot of the old school console when they were, at the time they were there. I have I had a PS1 that my brother brought back from the United States.
Hmm.
The problem being that you would also need games from the United States in order to be able to play them on the PS1 because they were region locked. And so I got 5 games when he brought the PlayStation to me, and then I never got any other games.
Why he did it though? It doesn't make sense.
Because my brother was and is still living in the US. So when he came home for like Christmas or something, it was like,
Okay.
here, Christmas present. And I was like, yay! And then I realized.
Oh man, region lock, I hate it. I don't think the Switch has it though. So
No, I don't think.
so we talked a little bit about UX, right? So
Yeah.
I want to ask you, especially I think that's interesting, especially for those who are listening. What is UX?
Oh boy. Oh no. So UX stands for user experience, and the definition of user experience depends a lot on who you ask it to. Like different people will have different definitions of it, but the one that I think about is the user experience isn't what's happening in game. It's not what the player is doing. It's the way the player feels when they play the game. So the user experience happens in the player's head. um, it's when they feel frustrated with something, or when they feel excited about something, or when they manage to understand something easily or not. And the thing you can do, you as a developer, is honing in onto what kind of feeling and experiences you want to give the player. Do you want your players to Where do you want the difficulty for your player? If you're making a rhythm game, you want the difficulty to be managing your reflexes so that you press the right button at the right time. You don't want the difficulty to be finding out which button I have to press. Because you want the buttons to be very clear, and you want the challenge to be, when do I press the button? And that's part of UX. And the reason why it's kind of hard to define what exactly is UX is that UX is everything. It's kind of everything. It's both the way the game mechanics will be experienced by the player. It's how does the sound work for the player. Do you do anything specific with it to invoke emotions in the players? It's something as simple as having a sad music during a sad scene to make the scene sadder. That's user experience. It also involves user interface. Again, back to the question of how clear do you want things to be, and where do you want your players to actually have to search, versus where do you want it to be very easy for the players to do things. And it's also, as I mentioned when we were talking about Mario Rabbids, VFX is also part of user experience, making things as clear as possible for the players, or making things have a bigger impact and feel stronger or less strong is also something that is UX, and that can be changed or modified with good use of VFX.
So basically everything that the player is experiencing. So and so the music, the visual effects, the story as well.
Yeah, the way you present your story, the way you have your players interact with the story, if they have decisions that matter in the story and how you make it matter. It can also be, if you have multiplayer in your game, how do players interact with other players in your multiplayer game? Do you have a chat? How do you handle toxicity in the chat? How do you, like, this is the first thing I'm thinking about. There's no way you're gonna have a chat with people and there's not gonna be somebody being a toxic butt in it. So how do you handle toxic players? What do you do to avoid regular players being put together with toxic players? What's your reporting process? How good is it? All of that UX.
So
And
sorry,
there's a lot
go
of
on.
people who, no problem. There's a lot of people who make the connection that UX equals UI. And that's how you can see in a lot of job offers, it's looking for a UX/UI designer. And that's like, yeah, the UI is part of UX, but that's not all it is.
But I see how people connect both of them, because user interface is the way that you interact with the game. So that's the thing that requires the better UX from all of them, right? Because that's exactly, like, that's the main thing that you're interacting with. So that's, I think, requires the best UX.
Both yes and no. It's the There's a lot of games that have UIs that aren't so present. If you don't have a whole like RPG system where you buy stuff and you have skills and things, maybe your menus is just like an inventory where you just have a list of the 10 things you can collect in the game, and yeah, it's there, but you're not interacting that much with it. As much of the user experience is just, how does the game feel? Like, how do you manage to make, if you have a game that's like a hack and slash, how do you make the attacks feel like they hit something? If you take the difference between a game like Monster Hunter and some beat them up like Devil May Cry, where you actually hit the enemy and you manage to like make them fly, and and in Monster Hunter, it's like in between of it. Like some smaller enemies, you will hit them, you will send them flying. Some bigger enemies, you will just go, Hapa! And the enemy just stays there. And then at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you had games like Dark Souls 1, where you would be hitting the enemy, and the enemy would just be turning towards you, like you haven't done that much damage to it. And it's all of that is part of, how does the experience that your user experience feel.
Yeah, makes sense. So it kind of depends on the game, the project.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you quantify that? How do you, like? It's a personal intuition then, basically. A lot of
It's
experience and personal intuition, because you need to feel something in order to communicate what you're feeling and how to improve it.
Yeah. So there's the key tool that we have, because uh, nobody that I know and nobody that I have worked with is a mind reader, sadly. That would have made my job way easier. The one thing that we have is doing play tests, user tests,
All right.
uh, where you put the players in front of your game, you take a look at what they're doing, and you then ask them how they actually felt. There's different methodologies because it's kind of a social and psychology science, uh, and there are actual methodologies that have been developed, like uh, simple things like the think aloud process, where you just ask people to speak as they play and tell you how they feel and what they think about things. And that's where you can have players going, I don't know where I'm supposed to go next. What am I supposed to do? I'm gonna talk to that NPC. Maybe he has the rest of the quest. Oh no, that wasn't the guy. I'm lost. And that's where you know, as a developer, like, oh, do we want to leave the players to wander in that area? Is that fine to us if they like run around for 5 minutes, or do we want them to just get into the place, find the person, do the thing? And that's a designer choice. You make the choice of which kind of experience you want, but then you need to actually have players that play it in order to know how it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily something that you do before the release of the game. You can still do it afterwards, especially for live games. It's a lot of the case in like shooter online games, where they get regular feedback from the players, from beta testers, from public test servers, and players will say, "Oh, this felt good, this felt bad. I didn't feel like this was as strong as that." And the key thing, the most important thing, is players, when they tell you how they feel, that's always valid. That's how they feel. Like, they're not lying. They're not saying it felt bad when it actually was kind of nice. If they're saying, I didn't like using this gun, it felt underpowered, or rather, usually players will tell you, the gun is underpowered. That's how they felt. It doesn't mean that the gun or the whatever is actually the way the players say it is. You have to look at the actual data and the actual design that you have in place and the actual intention that you want for that design. Um, and I remember reading about a case where the players were complaining about a weapon in a game. I don't remember which game, being not strong enough, that it wasn't, and didn't feel like it was doing enough damage. And the developers looked at the actual data, and there was no significant difference in the win rate between players using that weapon and player using other weapons. So they dug in deeper to find out what was the problem actually, and they found out that it was just a case of the VFX aren't strong enough, intense enough, and so the players feel like the weapon is doing less damage than the other weapons, even though the numbers actually say it's doing the same amount of damage and it has the same win-loss ratio. So what they did is they changed the VFX, and then the players saying, "Oh, it's not powerful enough," went, "Cool, it works now."
So, how many playtests do you think would be ideal for a 2-year project, for example?
I think it depends on the breadth and the, like,
The what?
how big the breadth.
The bread? What?
The breadth, the amplitude of your project. How big is
Okay,
your
okay.
project?
All right, okay.
If it's a small project, I think you can afford. And also, the important thing is you want to do testing early, as soon as possible. Um, and the other aspect of it that dictates how many playtests you can actually get to do is budget, because it costs money to run playtests.
Oh,
You
yeah, of
need
course. Okay.
the location, you need the actual researcher who are actually trained to do playtests, because there are specific ways to word the questions and to ask the questions that most people aren't aware of. and you need the same specialist to be able to look at the data and help you analyze it, because you know the game, but you don't necessarily know how to look at all the data and the telemetry that you're getting. And so you want people to do that, and then you actually need to usually give something to the playtesters. And in a lot of cases, it's like a voucher for like 20 quids per hour that they were, or per half day that they were testing the game. So that's a lot of money in the end. You can do playtests without paying people, but that means that you need either a very small playtest that people won't feel like they spent a lot of time, they gave you a lot of time and you're giving them nothing in return, or you need to manage a way to like make them feel special and that they're your friends, but also that's when you can get very biased results. It's always a balancing act. So it's hard to say what is a number. You I don't think you can have too much playtests, but there's a point where you will get diminishing returns because you will just find the same issues as last time. You're not going to find anything new. So at that point, you either fix the issues or you don't really do any new playtests because you're not finding anything new.
Got it. So basically, the earlier the better, and
Yes.
the more you do it, the better. But at some time, they just
Yeah.
are not that relevant. All right, okay.
And it's more of a, it's less that they're not relevant, it's more, do you actually have time to solve the problems that we pick up, right? If we come to like, if you take a game that hasn't had a lot of playtest in the early stages and you do a playtest like 2 months before release, and the players say, well, the results of the playtests are there weren't enough tutorials, or the players didn't manage to learn how the game mechanics worked. And it's like, how do you fix our onboarding is bad in 2 months before release?
And come on, get out of here. If you're playing the new Diablo game, you don't need money. You're playing the new Diablo game. I think that's cool in itself, right? For a lot of players, there's people who they don't have hobbies. They only play games. They only like games. Like that's their whole world. And if you tell them, hey, do you want to play the new Diablo and give your what you think, they're gonna do it. They don't care about money at all. So depending on the game, I think it would be easy to find players as well, right?
It's certainly easier when you have a big franchise that already has a big name. But also,
Yeah.
we don't usually tell the players that they're going to be testing our game,
Oh, okay.
like specific games. When I did an internship at the Ubisoft Research Lab a while ago, and the playtest announcements were more about the kinds of players we're looking for rather than the game we want people for,
Got it.
because we
Okay.
don't want to recruit only hardcore fans of the game, because the feedback that you're going to get is only going to be from these hardcore fans, which means that if you have anybody who is new to your game, new to the genre, they're going to be lost. Or anybody who's like mid level, if you cater your game to the hardcore players, the people who want actually to play the game and would be fine doing it for free, then all the rest of the people are left behind, because yeah, some hardcore gamers will be like, oh yeah, I already know how the mechanics of this thing works because I did it in the previous game. I don't need any explanation about that. And you're a new player, you just get into the game and you're like, how do things work? I don't know.
Okay. I remember. I think we were talking back in the days. I think you told me that certain playtests they even track your eyes movements, right?
Yeah,
That's incredible.
because again, people people cannot be objectives. They cannot be purely objective about the way they've experienced things. Everything that you experience is colored by your bias, your predisposition, and you are not aware of everything that you do. Um, you won't be aware of every expression that you do with your face, everywhere that you have actually seen while you were moving your eyes and the things you were focusing on. And eye tracking is very good to tell us we had a message pop in, an important message. The players just didn't look at that part of the screen at all, which means that they missed the information. We need to do better. And usually that's something that you also find when you do an interview with the players and you ask them, did you get the message about the important thing? And the players go, what message?
All right, so it makes sense to track the eyes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and you can track a lot of things. You can track, there's a few playtests that track the levels of stress by tracking the heart rate and the level of sweat on the skin of the players.
What? You're tracking levels? How are you doing that? You're putting those medical
Yeah,
devices on their fingers?
yeah.
What the fuck? What? Are you are you working on a horror game, Vivian, at Sumo?
No, I'm not involved in the playtest at Sumo, but I know that some playtests that were done by Ubisoft used these kinds of tracking because you want to know how stressed your player is. If you want to put like a very high stake, like intense situation, you want to know that it actually works as a high stake, intense situation, and that your players aren't just cruising by, sleeping.
Man, that's insane.
And yeah, it gives you a lot of information. There's a lot you can track. You can track the expressions of the face. There's a lot of um, scientific research that has been made about specifically what bit of expression, what does it mean, and there are software that allow you to kind of recognize like, oh, the player was like frustrated, frowning at that point, and they fully looked checked out at some
Yeah.
point, and that's very useful for you as a researcher to be able to tell the developers, hey, at this point in the game, none of our players saw the message, and when they kept dying 5 minutes later, they all were fully checked out and frustrated. Here's the image. Here's the proof.
I think it helps, right, to see the image of the frustrated player.
Yeah, and it's mostly for the researchers themselves.
All right.
Usually, most developers won't have the actual like eye tracking data. It's just for the researchers. It's useful to be like, here's the heat map of where the players looked. Here's where they didn't look, and here's where you put your message.
All right. Yeah. So there are some games like going back to the eye tracking movements. You said like the player didn't notice the message in a certain test, for example. Imagine you're playing World of Warcraft or any of those MMOs. How come I cannot play those games? How come they have so many tiny informations and numbers and stats all over the place, all over the screens, about yourself, about your enemies, about your future enemies, or about your pet? I don't know how many kind of informations they can display, but they try to display so much. I cannot play those games. Why they do that? Because clearly it's not good UX the way I understand it, because as humans we can only pay attention to one thing at a time, right? If you try to have too much stuff going on at the same time, your brain just can't process. Maybe because I'm a man, I don't know. People say that men can't do two things at a time. I don't know, but
I think it's a case of, it's not a case of necessarily bad UX. It's their user experience is they want you to have to handle a bunch of information, and if that matches with their intended experience, that sometimes you're focusing on an enemy here while there's another coming in, and we're giving you the information, and it's on you to manage to see that bit of information. That's the challenge that they want to give to the players. And I also think there's another
bad
aspect of it, which is,
bad UX a challenge that you want to give to the player.
yeah, it's only bad UX if it's not something that you intend to challenge the players with. Because good UX is helping the user do what they want as best as they want. if you go all the way to that point, if you go like at the absolute extreme, it good UX is a player pushes a button and they win the game. Because what the players want is to win the game. They push a button, they win the game. Because we're making video games, we need to put challenges to the players. But the important part is you have to figure out what you want to be difficult for the players. Same way, if you have a strategy game, maybe you want all the resources to be very clear. You have clear numbers so that the player knows exactly how their economy is doing, how their agriculture is doing. But maybe you want the hard part to be how do you like how do you manage when you have 25 things on the screen that go help, hey, that demand your attention. And in an ideal UX, you would press a button and all the resources would get smartly allocated to each of the things that need resources. If you do that in the game, you've kind of removed the game aspect of the game.
Makes totally sense. Makes totally sense. Now I understand it. Okay, so you need to kind of give the player something to manage. If you want to make the game, if you make the game too easy, then it's not a game anymore because you just press a button and the game is done.
It can be your intention to have something that is very reduced, like challenge and friction, but you need as a developer to be aware of where you want that friction, where you want that challenge. If you make a racing game, you want the challenge to be like how do I manage my acceleration and my braking and my turning at which point, and how do I manage my speed. So you want the speed to be clear, you want the controls to be easy to handle and not confusing for the players. You want the players to have just enough information about where their opponents are and how risky they need their moves to be. But you could also make another kind of racing game where the challenge is just managing to stay on the lane and follow a specific trajectory. That's another type of game with another type of challenge. So you're not gonna have the same user experience and the same things that you reduce the friction and increase the friction.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And what's crazy, the most crazy thing about it all is that, as far as I know, UX is a recent thing. It didn't exist a long time ago, right? Like when games. So you know more about it than I do.
Yeah,
So
it's a recent thing in game. It's not so recent in the web and stuff like that. It existed since the 80s or the 90s in web and interface. There's a lot of and also it's the name specifically UX that is kind of recent and new. There's always been ergonomics and one of the key things about UX, which is affordances, which is the ability of an object to suggest its usage. So a door with a handle, you grab and you pull, and if there's only a plate, you push. That's concepts and things that have existed for a while. And that's not to say that the games before UX really became a thing had bad UX. There's a lot of games that had designers and people that were absolutely focused on how does the game feel for the players. It's just that in recent years they've kind of been like, we need a specific person that focuses on that, because as I mentioned, UX is everything. It's kind of the responsibility of every single developer. The game feel, the audio, the visual aspect of the enemies, like, the showing that in the character design there's a really big brownie guy with a lot of armor as part of the character design. That's making the player understand that this enemy is going to be a lot more of a challenge than the peasant with the like a little scythe who's like, eh. That's also part of the user experience, to just be able to look at these enemies and go, I'm gonna like hit the peasant first.
but when it became part of the game industry, though.
I don't have the actual date for that. It's been a process, I think, that kind of started with playtesting in a more standardized way. I want to assume that playtest happened before, but maybe it was more of a I call my 5 friends and they play the game and they give us what they thought of it.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
it's
mean,
also very specific about bigger game companies because smaller game companies do not have the time or budget to hire a person specifically whose job is to run around and be like, I'm a UX.
if you want a good game experience, so you kind of need to do it.
Nah, not really. Because again, UX is the responsibility of everybody. Uh, it's not just the UX designer who's like, I am responsible for players having a good experience in this game.
So if it's everybody responsibility, what the fuck do you do, Vivian? You just sit all day.
That's a good question.
That's not my Vivian. How we make this level better? That's not my responsibility.
Yeah, that's the thing is, designers have intentions that they want to achieve, and in an ideal world, you would have everybody who's always thinking about how does this thing that we just put in the game actually
Yeah,
experience for
yeah.
the players. When you have a bigger company, you have the time to have somebody whose specific role it is to do that, to just go back and coordinate with the people who are doing the user research, coordinate with the game directors to actually have what is the intended experience, and to check throughout the game that we're actually meeting that experience. And when you're in a smaller company, you can just have your regular designers just be also responsible for the user experience and just figure out on their own the solutions and the what is the problem and the solutions that we bring to it.
Yeah, makes sense.
And
So
in an ideal world, I would be out of a job.
don't say that. Come on. So you always need someone. Oh man, one sec. You always need the person because if you look at the programmers, the artists, the game designers, they are so focused on the game design, on the art, on the programming. They're not necessarily caring about the UX. Now that we know that UX is a thing, I think it's important to have someone who looks after it. You know.
Yeah, but I think also again, I'm I'm not a game designer. I'm not a level designer. I'm not an artist. All I can say is I think there's a problem here, and here's my suggestions on how we can fix it. There's a very high chance that somebody who's actually a game designer, somebody who's actually an artist, can come back and say, actually, we're gonna do it that way and still achieve the same thing, but in a better manner, in a better way. So it's all about collaboration, and as a UX designer, unless you and currently most of my job has been working as a UI UX designer. Uh, if you work as a person who's in the middle of everybody else, you don't necessarily do a lot of design yourself. You'll do a lot of analysis, a lot of a few recommendations, and then you take your recommendations. You talk to the actual people who are doing the actual work, and you're like, can we do this? Can we do that? What's the consequences of doing this and that? You just have to be kind of aware of everything that everybody is doing, which is hard.
All right. So with all of that said, how do you see UX evolving? And I'm asking that because recently VR and AR are really evolving a lot. Apple recently released their Apple Vision Pro, something like that, and they're clearly trying to find a new replacement of the iPhone before iPhone becomes obsolete. Like the way I see it, we're going to this future where we're all gonna be living this Ready Player One reality, you know. And how does UX will look like then?
So I don't think we're gonna get to a point where everybody is in a VR headset
All
or
right,
augmented
okay.
reality headset, at least anytime soon, simply because of the cost of entry to the technology.
Hmm.
When you buy a VR headset that costs as much as a recent smartphone, and all you can do on it is play games, and you're isolated from your family, your friends, your environment. If you're not there to play games, I don't think most people would like just wear a VR headset 24/7 for like what? Doing work in Excel? And the cost of entry is just high. It's really high for everything that's VR. I haven't looked at the price of the new Apple AR headset. I don't
Three
know if they've
thousand,
announced it.
3,500 euros.
Yeah,
Dollars. Sorry.
so like $3,000. Who's gonna buy that?
No one's gonna. I mean, the enthusiasts, right? The ones who want to play with this new toy right away. But the same way that the VR, the new Apple Vision Pro thing is expensive now, the initial plasma TVs, they were also very expensive. Technology is
Yeah,
always very expensive at the beginning, but then it
yeah,
evolves and gets cheaper, into the masses, you know.
yeah. Eventually, after a while, but it needs to have some adoption first and clear advantages that the people want to use them for. The advantage with plasma TVs was they were significantly thinner than cathode tube TV, which were like this big, extremely heavy, and the picture quality was much better. What are the advantages of working in VR? Because that's one of the questions we have to ask.
It's cool as fuck. Number one. Number two, none. Literally, there's no other advantage. I mean, besides being cool.
And when you look at VR games have a specific proposition that's really nice, but they also have a specific disadvantage that regular games don't have, which is you need to be physically active to be playing a VR game. No matter what game you're playing, you have a limit, and that's your stamina. And because you're moving around in any, unless it's like an absolutely static VR game that you could be playing with a controller in your seat, you're gonna get tired a lot faster than if you were just sitting in your seat playing with a controller. Um, so you have a pure raw physical limit of if you have to like move your arms to hit stuff. Like when you see people playing Beat Saber, they're actually getting a workout. Like they're fully doing sports. And even the smaller stuff where it's just you're walking around and pushing stuff, it's like you're moving your arms a lot more than you do on a regular basis, even in your daily life. So that's physically tiring. And then you also get the question of you have screens that are like 5 centimeters away from your eyes. How do your eyes handle that? I know that my eyes get tired real fast when I wore a VR headset. Not to mention, I most of the VR headsets I tried couldn't wear them with my glasses, which means I didn't see a lot of what was happening in the game. So when you take into consideration all of that, I think there is a space for VR game, and I think there's a space for VR applications, especially stuff like sculpting in VR or making art in VR. And I think there's a few more applications that I can think of that would be enhanced or made easier by having an environment that you interact in. I do think that as long as VR is such a fully socially isolating experience and expensive and physical limited by your physicality, we're gonna have a hard time getting a wide adoption of VR. Now, when we get to the future where you can plug in a cable to the back of your head and then get in VR, now we're talking. But that, I think that's like a long way away.
That's worse, Vivian. If you're plugging someone into your crane, that's worse, isn't it? Would you so what you're telling me is that you rather have this fucking matrix injection into your brain rather than just some VR goggles?
Yeah.
Why? It's so
If we're talking about the VR where the Matrix VR where it feels like reality, but you can be something completely different than what you are in reality. Imagine you could fly. You could fly and have the sensations of flying.
Oh, all right, all right. Okay, so you're
Yeah, I'm talking about the full fantasy science fiction VR where you're in a completely different world and you feel like you're in a completely different world, but you can do stuff that you can't do in real life but your brain feels real. That would be really cool. For now, the VR games that we have are fun, they're nice. There's a lot of really cool experiences, but it's just if you look at the rate of adoption of VR, there's still most people who haven't touched VR. Like
because of
they've seen it.
the price and the lack of applications, but that's
Yeah,
something that's it's getting
but
better over time. Like in 5 years from now, the prices will be would drop dramatically and the applications will increase. And in 10
that's
years
the
from
thing.
now, in 10 years from now, you're going to have like glasses as thin as the ones you're using right now.
the thing I'm thinking is there's a lot of things that would not benefit necessarily from being in VR. There's a lot of games that I play that it wouldn't give me anything to be playing them in VR. I don't want to be playing Devil May Cry with like a first person camera pretending to be Dante and actually swinging a sword with my own arms. I don't want that as an experience. And there's a lot of things that are going to stay out of VR simply because it's not the experience that you want to have.
Yeah, but I think there's two types of experiences. When you have VR, you can have all types of experience. The first one would be like you're describing. You have this first person view and you're like you are immersed in the game, like you are the character. But another type of interaction would be you just put your VR goggles and you have a screen, a virtual screen, and you play like you play nowadays. You have a controller or a mouse and a keyboard, and you're just looking at this virtual screen.
But why would you do that rather than have an actual screen?
Because then you can have it at any size and you can take it anywhere. You can take it in the airplane and have a 50-inch screen in the airplane.
Nah. Honestly, there's the part of me that's like, I personally, I don't care that much about having a huge ass screen. I like my last TV was this big, and I was playing God of War on it.
All right. I see it. But now I don't understand it. Why would you prefer the Matrix plug? Because the way I see it, the Matrix plug is way more dangerous because you are completely immersed in this other universe. You lost track of time, and you lose track of space, and you can spend 2 days in there and don't even noticing because it's a completely new world. Isn't that more dangerous than just having like some goggles?
It is, but also I get to pretend that I get to fly. I don't get to pretend that I fly. I get to fly.
So it's worth okay. So fly, it's worth it.
I
Okay.
get to fly. I get to have. If we're talking about the fantasy version of VR where you plug yourself in and they do things that your brain believe is real, you can do anything in there and be anything you want to be. That sounds so much cooler than you're playing a video game and you're swinging stuff, and then when
Yeah,
you physically get tired, you have to stop playing because you're just my arms are hurting.
And how much do you think they would charge the subscription for it?
So much.
And then
It's fine.
and then you don't pay the subscription, they just turn off your brain, and you're dead.
It's fine. It's fine. At the point where we get to that future anyway, I will be dead by then.
Do you
So
think so? No, I think it will happen in our lifetime,
no,
Vivian. No?
no. There is at the moment no like virtual reality goggles will probably get better and thinner and everything, and eventually to the point where you can have like maybe just a basically a headset that's this big and you can just go whoop and you're in virtual reality. Let's go. Virtual reality where you can plug in a cable inside your brain and it shows you in a completely different world. I don't think we know enough about how the brains work to be able to do that today.
Yeah. But going back to the initial question, how this whole revolution would affect your UX work?
It would just change the things, the contents of it, but not the methodology, because the process of just uh, uh, seeing what's the actual situation and how do the users interact with the technology would still remain the same. It's just the actual conclusion and actual content would be changing. But again, I don't think we're going to do that much in VR and in AR. I've worked on several games at several companies in my small career, even though it was in the middle of the big VR, Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, like boom, and I never worked on a VR or AR game at all. I mean, I worked on a VR game when I was in university because we specifically decided that we wanted to do a VR game. But we could have done a regular game and like there would have been no VR in it at all needed. So I really don't know that VR is gonna have such a big uh, uh, um, like market penetration. When you look at the price of the Oculus One Quest 2, I don't remember which one is the latest. It's not that expensive. It's like the price of a game console. It's like 200 or 300 quid. It's the price of a game console. You would think that it would have as much people buying it as you have people buying PlayStations. You truly don't. And I think it's just because of the, again, physical limitations of you are fully isolated in your space. You don't have the ability to share that experience with anybody because watching a stream of the VR screen, even with when you see the actions that the player are doing, is not the same as actually wearing the VR headset and like doing the stuff that you do with it. And that means you're fully isolated. You can't share your experience with your friends, your family. You can't really stream it. You and at the moment we still have very few game experiences and interesting experiences that are in VR. Like the metaverse as it is now is kind of a joke.
It's a joke. It's a joke. Yeah.
It's like you
sure.
can get to meetings in VR. I would rather do that on Teams. Thank you. I would rather do that on Skype. Thank you.
Yeah, the whole metaverse thing, it's a whole joke. I think I told someone before in another podcast, but I'll repeat it. Did you see this I think it's a demo. It's a demo stage. Something I don't know. It's a demo level or something like that, where they have a stand-up comedy, a virtual stand-up comedy bar, something like that. And you can go there with your virtual buddies, everyone wearing their headsets, and it's like a bar, like a real bar. They have the tables, they have the stage, and you can decide with your buddies who's gonna go on the stage and tell the joke. So I don't know. You go there with your buddy. One of you go into the stage, you tell a joke, and all of others they sit on the tables and they hear it, and if they like it, they can applaud it. But in order to applaud it, you need to buy one metaverse. I'm not joking. One metaverse coin, which is $1. So in order to applaud and to react and to do all kind of reactions in the metaverse, you need to pay one Zuck coin. It's insane. How dystopian is that?
Eh, I think there's a space for like online spaces where you can meet up with your friends that has existed since the internet has existed.
Yeah.
There's always been like online environments, whether it was started with 2D environments, then you had 3D stuff. There's people who get into World of Warcraft not to like play the game, but just to hang out with their friends, and that's fine. I think the problem is trying to make like it's a whole thing and not just another online platform where you can meet up with your friends.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
also trying to monetize the whole thing. Like, we're gonna sell land in our metaverse.
That's ridiculous. That's so
Is the
stupid.
space limited? Is there? But you can buy a piece of the metaverse that's right next to the piece of the metaverse that Nike has.
Yeah, I
Well-
mean, you're not interested on that? Come on, that's amazing. I'm being sarcastic. Sarcastic. That's trash. But
I think there's like there are MMORPGs that have economies like that. Like from what I've heard, the the housing market in Final Fantasy 14 is really like because you have a limited amount of space that people can go in and buy guild houses or their own houses where they can store stuff and decorate as they want. And I guess yes, that makes sense, but there's also the whole of Final Fantasy 14 behind that. You know, they're like people aren't here for the houses; they're here for Final Fantasy and also the houses. And I don't think there's any metaverse proposition that has something, and then also the you can buy a plot of land in the metaverse. They just have the you can buy a plot of land in the metaverse and you can meet up your friends. And I have to pay? Yeah. I mean, I could call them on Discord, and that's kind of the same.
I think this concept, this whole concept of virtual land, that just doesn't work. If you look at, I think, how it was called again,
Second Life?
Second Life. They tried that. It doesn't work.
It did work for them. For a while there was a whole, and there still is a whole economy that is linked to Second Life. But that's because people can create stuff and sell it on Second Life for actual real money. Like you make a 3D asset of a costume for players to buy, and you can sell that for actual real money in Second Life. But Second Life, despite its success in its like little sphere of the internet, is still very niche. Like most people haven't heard of Second Life. They don't know what it is.
Is Second Life still a thing?
Yeah,
What the fuck? Really?
yeah, it's still a thing.
I thought it died like 10 years ago. That's insane.
I think you could just go and make an account now and still get in there. Yeah. But
Second
it's like
Life, explore, create, discover, create. A new world's waiting. Join free. Expect the unexpected. Find your community. Imagine the possibilities. Remote meetings redefined. Man, I can't believe it. It's true. I think they have a TikTok. They have an official TikTok page.
yeah, it's still pretty much a thing. But when you look at, I don't know how many users they have. I don't know if I can find that.
That's ridiculous. They are celebrating the proud month in Second Life. That's insane.
Yeah, as of June, there's the first website that I find which says there are 17,000 players on Second Life on June 10th, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things. That's really not a big number of people being online for a thing that is free and that it's not even in VR. You just need a computer and you can go. I don't think that most people will prefer virtual meetings to actual meetings in person with people. And until we get to the part of the VR where you can plug in your brain and you have a full body that actually acts and reacts in VR, then I don't know that VR is going to be that successful. If you can't have, like, part of the having a good time with your friend is like you go out in a park and you sit together and you watch the river, or you go to a bar and you have a beer and you have a snacks and cocktails and juices and everything. Or you go to the restaurant, you have a nice meal with your friends. You go to the cinema, you watch a nice movie, and you elbow each other and you, oh, look at the cool scene, oh my god. You can watch a picture in VR with your friends. Would you though?
Yeah, nothing will replace the human to human like interactions. That's irreplaceable.
Yeah, and I can understand if it's like a remote friends and remote family. I have friends who are now living in two separate corners of France, and another one is in Belgium, and we still meet every Monday to play D&D,
Hmm.
and that's cool. We definitely wish we were playing in person and actually like physically being present. Perhaps the day we get VR where you have your full physicality, and when I make an expression with my face, it actually translates into the VR world, and when I move my body, it properly translates, because no VR thing actually properly tracks the full body as of today. The most you have is hand tracking, but
Yeah.
then it does weird stuff with your elbows where it doesn't know. Like, it tries to guess where to place it, but if you put your arm in a weird way, it will like go
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
randomly in the corner. So it's like,
Yeah. But this will get better, I think.
this might get better, probably, if there is still enough money to invest into VR. It's like kind of the serpent biting its own tail, that the base proposition of VR, I don't think, has been strong enough to attract enough people, that now it's kind of like coasting on the people who are really into VR, really excited about it. I don't think most people are excited. Like, when you take like, there's a lot of people playing games. There's a lot of people not playing games as well.
Hmm.
So to these people who aren't playing games, how do you sell them on VR? To the people who are playing games, there are specific games that you can play in VR and that work better in VR, where the VR isn't just you have a bigger screen. You have to sell that to all these players and say, also put in the money to buy the headset and the everything. And what do you mean it's much more expensive than, in the end, like it's as expensive as a console? What do you mean I could be paying $9.99 a month to play on the Xbox Game Pass?
So, so the Apple Vision Pro has so the Apple Vision Pro offers three types of things like experiences, content. I'm paraphrasing MKBHD from YouTube. He's the one who came up with those categories. So content, connection, and what was the last one? Content, connection, and when you connect with people. Connection, connectivity. You understood me. You got it.
Yeah.
So content, connection,
And the last one.
and last. So basically, you are either watching a movie or playing a game. You are working, or like Excel and Word and stuff like that, or you are having a FaceTime call with someone or talking with someone. So those are the three big propositions. So it's not only gaming, you can do other stuff. So anyway, this whole thing, just to ask you, Vivian, how do you think that 2033, 10 years from now, smartphones will look like, or game consoles will look like?
So I think an easy thing to look at is, how did smartphone look like in 2013? Um, you look back at the way technology looked back then and realize that it's not that different. We have bigger smartphones than
Mm-hmm.
we had in 2013. Most people have a smartphone now. In
Mm-hmm.
2013, I had the small Samsung that you could push open, and you had an actual physical keyboard uh, in it. And that was, I still want to get back. I want actually a smartphone that has that, but no smartphone has that.
BlackBerry.
Blackberries, are they still a thing?
Let me check.
Are they still a thing?
I don't think so. Let me check. Products. They have products. I'm on their website right now. Let me.
I'm
Products
curious.
and cybersecurity. So they offer a couple of a couple of products. I'm sorry. So cybersecurity, embedded systems, transportation assets tracking, and automotive. What, they have cars?
Ah, FAQ. Does BlackBerry still make smartphones? On January 4, 2022, BlackBerry decommissioned the infrastructure and services used by our legacy software and phone operating system. What does BlackBerry do now? BlackBerry is a software company focused on providing enabling technology to ensure the safety and security of all the devices and systems businesses rely on. So yeah, BlackBerry doesn't make smartphones anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I
So
remember it
yeah,
was a big thing. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
I want a smartphone that's like this one, but then I can flip it, and there's an actual physical keyboard underneath, and I can type with my little fingers because I profoundly dislike tactile keyboards.
Yeah, they don't offer the same type of feedback. I saw there's a patent. I don't know from which company. They were developing this technology where small bumps would come out of the screen for each key. Did you see that?
I think I saw something like that.
I think that would be amazing.
That would be a thing I would love to see for smartphones in 2033. I think we're also going to see thinner and thinner smartphones eventually. We already have like flexible smartphones and displays that you can like bend and stuff. When you take the Samsung Galaxy, whatever Z Flip, whatever it's called, the one that opens up and closes up. So we already have like flexible screen technology, and I think in the future that's going to be perhaps an even bigger thing where you have really like a smartphone that has the like form factor of this one, and then you can open it and you have like a full like wide
Mm,
screen instead of just the smartphone.
makes sense. So more foldable smart screens, smartphones. Sorry, and maybe with this bump technology where you have the
Yeah.
texture on the screen. Yeah, I can see that. That would be amazing.
And I think also more things that are connected to smartphones. We have a lot of Internet of Things that is more and more increasing. Now people can control their lights and the fridge and the TV from their smartphone. I think that's going to become bigger in the future, at
Yep.
least for people who buy into this, because I don't. The only thing that's smart is my phone and my computer, and they're just connected to themselves and my headphones, and that's it.
I know there's some people. Some people love it. I don't care that much, but some people love it. They have their microwave. It's a smart microwave. They have the washing machine. It's the smart washing machine. What the fuck? Why the fuck do you need that?
In some cases, I can understand it because I would love to have a better way to program my washing machine to tell it like launch the laundry at like in a way that when I get home at 6, the laundry is
Oh,
done and I can like just grab it and hang it. That would be great.
yeah.
It just requires my laundry machine to just be a little more precise in the timing it gives and the delay I can put in. That would be great. Also, it's helpful to have a fridge that says, "Hey, you're almost out of veggies. Do you want to add tomatoes and carrots to your grocery list?" That would be nice. Now, do I want something that has as much technology and that when the little chip that handles the computer part of the fridge breaks down, my entire fridge breaks down? No!
Like printers nowadays, right? Printers, they're so unreliable. Just
I think printers have always been unreliable. I don't
oh,
think there's been a point in time when anybody has said, "Wow, I love working with printers. It's so cool."
that's true. Yeah, so going back to smartphones, I totally share your vision of smartphones. I think it totally makes sense. Regarding game consoles, though, do you think we're gonna have no game consoles at all and everything gonna be on the cloud?
I think we're still going to have physical, or rather, at least downloadable things, simply because the access to high speed internet, even in Western countries, isn't in any way, shape, or form guaranteed. Like, when you take I have fiber internet now, and that's great. I'm happy about it. I had the choice of one provider because there's only one internet provider that was connected to our building to provide fiber internet. And there's places where they just don't have fiber internet. Will they have the proper speeds to actually play the games? And considering how many people don't have access to good internet or are in very limited situations, I don't think games can afford to be fully on the cloud until everybody has the connection speeds of like South Korea.
Do they have a very fast internet
They
in
have
South Korea?
pretty
Do
good
they?
internet, yeah.
All right. Okay. Wow.
At least
I'd
in the
ma-
big cities.
oh, I think the biggest esport teams are from South Korea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Everything's connected. Okay, makes sense.
But yeah, you can't have cloud based everything until most of the people have access to reliable and fast internet. And there are still going to be people like me who are going to say, I want to be able to download my game and play it without internet. Because what if my cat cuts my internet cable?
Yeah. I see it, but what about Starlink? Do you know this Elon Musk plan of having satellites all around the globe? Imagine, just imagine. He makes it free. Everyone has access to Starlink. This is not happening, of course. He needs money, but um, like everyone would have access to internet all around the world.
The question is this actually going to be a reality though? Indeed, in a world where everybody has access to high speed internet, yeah, we can do cloud when everybody has access to internet. We can do cloud based things if everybody has reliable, continuous, high speed access to internet. If you don't have that, then you can't do that
Yeah.
much cloud.
Okay. Forget about Elon Musk and the satellites. Don't you think that in 10 years from now this is gonna be a reality? Like,
Nah,
no.
nah, absolutely not. The infrastructures required to develop internet enough that everybody has access to high speed internet is absolutely enormous, and I don't think we're gonna get there in 10 years. When you look at the speed of fiber optic deployment in any country, we're not gonna get there in 10 years. It's only this year that my sister's building in the suburbs of Paris has finally been connected to fiber internet. This year,
This year, that's
finally.
Paris.
It's the suburbs of like, further suburbs of Paris. But yeah, it's we're not a small podunk town in the middle of the countryside. We have one of the biggest highways in France that goes like 500 meters from our house. That's also the highway you take to get to Disneyland Paris. We have a lot of infrastructures. We just got fiber internet this year in the building. So seeing the speed at which it gets like spread out and everybody gets access to it, I don't think in 10 years most people are going to have fiber internet. And then you have to factor in the costs, the actual cost of paying for high speed internet. There are places where it's cheaper, places where it's more expensive, places where people have unlimited internet, places where people still need to pay for a certain amount of data per month. I don't think we can afford to go fully everything is cloud based in this kind of world. There's a lot of things that can go cloud based, but I know I personally I still want my games installed on my PC that I can play without having to be connected to the internet.
Yeah, yeah. I'm on your side now. That after you told me that even your sister, right?
Yeah,
In the suburbs of Paris, don't. Oh man, she doesn't have high speed internet. It's crazy.
and it's like we had ADSL internet, which was fast enough. You know, it's like it was fine. It did the job. But also, I would not be playing any kind of
Yeah.
cloud game on that because I would get so much. I mean, on a solo single player game, that would be
Yeah.
fine to have some lag. But if I'm playing anything online, nah.
One day we get
And
there.
it's like,
Maybe in
yeah.
50 years. I don't know.
And there's still going to be many places, depending on the sizes of the country, because it's some major infrastructures that need to be deployed.
Yeah.
When you take countries like the United States of America, it's so big. How is everybody gonna get internet?
That's true. Okay, we went in a big tangent just because I asked you about UX and VR. So, going back to VR, I would like to ask you, what advice would you give to someone who aspires to be an UX specialist in the game industry?
This is very sad, but
Why you're laughing? Why you're laughing?
don't get into the video game industry.
Why?
There's no, I'm joking, but there's
Are you? I'm not sure.
if you want a good job security and a better paying job, don't get into the video game industry. I got into the video game industry because I wanted to work on cool projects and cool stuff. There's a lot more money to be made working as a UX designer in a bank, or rather for a bank. There's a lot more money to be made. The good news is there's a huge demand for UX designers in the video game industry at the moment. I don't know if that's still going to be the case in 5 years. Hopefully, for anybody who is starting in this career at the moment, it's still going to be the case. My advice would be always be learning, like always be watching conferences, always be learning about the new pieces of tech and the new things that actually will have an impact on your job. Like the Apple VR AR headset is nice. It also costs $3,000. So by the time it
3,500.
yeah, so by the time it becomes relevant for me in my job, I'm good. I'm good. Also, the most important thing about UX is communicating and collaborating with the other people around you. And it's people always say the soft skills are the most important things, but in UX it's the most important things. Even if your ideas and recommendations aren't the best, as long as you can talk with the people who might know best. Like there are senior designers who've been in this industry for 15, 20 years. Rely on them. They know stuff that you don't. You won't know everything. So you have to talk with them and be like, hey, here's the problem. How do you think we can fix it?
Yeah.
What else? Accessibility. It's a big thing. It's going to become an even bigger thing. that's something that you need to learn about as a UX designer, and not just the parts of accessibility that are, we added some options in the settings menu, but also how do we make ideally the game and the game design as accessible as possible. Um, and there's a whole lot of stuff about that. There's an entire conference about that I invite anybody who wants to get into game UX to have a look at. Um, yeah,
So don't working as a UX specialist, never stop learning and learn about accessibility
yeah, and soft skills.
and of course, soft skills. Yeah, I agree, Vivian, because you are one of the persons that I worked with that was one of the most enjoyable experiences ever.
Oh,
And so I would, and because of that, I would always come to you and ask you, hey, what do you think about that? Hey, how would you do that better? Because you had the knowledge, of course, but because you were also nice. If you were not nice, I would just don't talk to you, even if you had the experience, you know.
yeah. It's
So
it's very important because the UX is again in the middle of everything. It's the job of everything in the game to make the user experience. If your game lags because the code hasn't been fully optimized in certain area, or you have assets that are too heavy, that's not going to be a good user experience. That's not something that you as a UX designer or specialist can do anything about other than go, hey, can we do something about the lag, please? And you have to be nice to the people who are actually going to handle that and
yeah,
collaborate with them to be like, okay, what can we do? Why are we lagging? You're the specialist in code, you're the specialist in 3D rendering. What can we do? How can we solve the problem?
yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, so before we started the podcast, you told me that you'd like to talk about concept art as well.
Yeah, especially because of you, because
Oh, all right.
you posted on Twitter recently about the concept art that you did for I forgot the name of the game, the train game.
The Railway Empire, the
Yeah,
train
you
game,
posted about.
which is on the Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass, by the way. You know, you could play it. Just saying, just throwing it out there. You know. Sorry, go on, go on.
Maybe I will. Maybe I will. Um, but I wanted to talk about that because it's interesting. When we met up, you were doing UI art, and I know you wanted to transition into concept art already back when we were at Ubisoft. How did that go for you?
Oh, 1 second. So it went great. Sorry, Lily was here. So it went great. So at Ubisoft, I was a UI artist and as a concept art apprentice, right? So I had the opportunity to talk with the concept arts at Ubisoft and learn from them, and they would give me tasks and ideas on how to improve, and that was amazing. But it wasn't a full-time concept art position as I was aiming for. Since then, I quit Ubisoft. I joined this new company called Gaming Minds. It's a little bit smaller than Ubisoft. We are around 30 people. Just as the Gaming Minds studio, we belong to a bigger company, a bigger publisher called Calypso. You probably heard about Calypso before. They own several game developing companies, and they also developed the Tropical series. You know it. So at the Gaming Mind Studios, which is one of the Calypso studios, we are about 30-25 people. And because of that, that's not a huge number for those who are listening. Many gaming studios, they have around 100 developers, 200 developers. So 30 is not that much if you talk about gaming developing companies. So we're about 30-25, and because we're not that many, the few people who are working at the studio they have the chance to work on several parts of the game. So we normally say that to our studio lead, he wear many hats because he's not only the studio lead, he's the studio lead, but he's also the game designer. He responsible for the game designing doc. He's also responsible for the final saying on the art direction. And that's only possible when you have a smaller studio. If you go to a Ubisoft studio, for example, no, we have the head of game design, which we call the game design lead, or the head of art, which we call the art director. But that's not the case at Gaming Mind Studio. And because of that, I have the opportunity to have my input on UI art, but not only on the UI art, but also develop the concept art for the game, the marketing art for the game. And that's amazing. I love it.
It's really, really cool. Yeah.
It's really cool, yeah.
I guess that's one of the advantages of working for a smaller company is you get to do more significant stuff than when you work at a bigger company where everybody has their own little piece of the project.
Definitely. Yeah.
So when we were at Ubisoft, that was like three years ago almost. Well, 2 years something. When we were at Ubisoft, you had started. You were already doing these exercises and concept art. I remember you had like your own personal projects that you were working on in your spare time. How did you how much did you train? Did you have like mentors who were coming to you and teaching you how to do stuff, or did you just train by yourself?
At Ubisoft?
Or even outside of Ubisoft before you, so that you could do the transition fully from UI art to full, well, concept art at Gaming Mind Studio?
So I never did a proper transition from UI to concept art. I was always UI artist at Ubisoft, doing concept art as an apprentice. And at Gaming Minds, I was already hired as a senior illustrator and concept artist. So the way that I'm seen and referred at inside of Gaming Minds is a senior artist. Basically, I'm the Photoshop guy. Basically, so we need a new art, talk to Bruno. We need a new UI, talk to Bruno. So I'm the Photoshop guy, basically. We need a new logo, talk to Bruno. We need a new marketing art, talk to Bruno. So the transition was just getting hired. Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of responsibilities. How are you handling that, Mr. Senior Artist?
Great. I'm loving it, actually. It's because I was already pushing myself and trying to act as such at Ubisoft. As you mentioned yourself, I was already like taking on personal projects, trying to do as much as I could on my free time to act as an artist, or as a senior artist, as a concept artist, and or maybe even an art director, even though I'm not an art director. So when I got hired at Gaming Minds, I just continue doing everything that I was already doing at Ubisoft and even on my free time. So it was very relieving in a way, because I just start painting more, I would say. I really paint a lot more, and I love it.
Yeah, I think it's also like the kind of acknowledgement of your efforts and your progress.
Yeah, thank you, Viviane. So, for example, we start developing a new project. I can't say which one of course, and
Video
NDA,
games,
video
secrets.
games industry, of course. But we had no clear visual direction where we are going with this project, where we are, and where we're gonna get.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, all right, there's a space for me here. I know how to create a plan for that. And that's exactly what I did. I saw this void, this confusion within the group. How can I help? How can I make this a more how can I bring all the artists together and propose a unified vision for the project? And that's exactly what I did. And it was hard work, of course. It was very hard to develop, but it was very rewarding. I really enjoy it. So I had this space, and it felt great.
Yeah. I guess it's really, really about having the space and possibility to be like, that's me, I did that.
Definitely, yeah. And going back to what you said at Ubisoft, you're just a small piece, right? Because the company is so big. The company is big. There's so many employees that you're just a small piece of the machine. And if you try to step out of it, step off your boundaries, and talk about or propose or try to do something that is outside of your position, there will be repercussions because you're doing someone else's job. And
Yeah.
how dare you do someone else's job? They are being paid to do it. Stay in your lane, you know? So I'm not saying that's bad. It's just part of working on any type of big company. Every big company is like that. They have 1,000 workers, and each one of them needs to stay on their lane. Otherwise, the whole thing falls down. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. The biggest difference between the big AAA companies with thousands of employees is I did the little thing in the corner there. That's mine. And
Yeah.
when you're working in a smaller company with less people, you have more responsibilities for more stuff simply because, well, you divide the game in four, well, you're gonna have a big quarter of the game that's yours.
Yeah. It's a way more rewarding. For example, uh, at Gaming Minds, we've recently launched Rail Empire 2, right? So I was responsible on developing the logo of the game, the cover art of the game that it's in the box, and what else? The UI, the concept art, some of the I'm not sure if the marketing art, not the marketing art, but those are big things. The logo, the box, like
Yeah.
wow, the art book. I developed the art book. Like if
Oh,
you say.
yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. If you say that it's Ubisoft, I developed the logo of the game. Those are all things that are developed by different people. So it's way more rewarding.
I'm looking up Railway Empire because I want to see all the art that you did.
Play it. I think if you go to the art station, you can see the best ones. Let me send it to you. Oh. 1 second. I'm gonna send it to you. I send it to you on Ninja.
I found it.
Yeah.
My Google foo is very strong.
So I'm sharing the screen right now. Are you on the art station?
Yep.
So, for example, the first image that you see from Rail Empire, the two trains coming towards the camera,
Yeah.
that's the key art. It's used as the box of the game.
That is so cool.
Yeah, right. And then the one afterwards, the one after this one, like the train in the sunset, like I had so much fun painting it.
That is so cool. Ah,
Thanks, Vivian. Thanks for. So, but why you were asking? Why are you so interested?
Because I think it's really cool. There's a Vivian from like 10 years ago who was like, I want to do art in games. And then I did art for one game, and it killed my passion for art in games, and then and art in general. And then I was like, nah, it's good. I'm good. Nah. I can see that I can't enjoy that as like a professional career, like making it in a professional way. And so I kind of pivoted and went to something else. And also, I don't have the self discipline again to like push myself to be like, I'm gonna be like redrawing this thing and learning about how to do this and that perfectly.
Yeah, you need to practice. If you don't practice, you don't get better at it.
Yeah, but yeah, I figured I don't like, I like drawing for fun. I don't like the responsibilities and the efforts that it requires to do art in a professional way.
You don't need to have any to put any effort nowadays. Have you seen Midjourney?
So that's still, I think the thing is, Midjourney will give you something that looks cool, and that's about it. The moment when you're going to need to like have different views of the same thing, because I mean, you know it, concept art isn't just making a nice looking picture, it's also like providing different versions of the same thing. What if we like providing like the details about an object? For example, like if you have a piece of equipment, it's going to be like drawing it from the front, from the back, from the side. And I think those, I've not used Midjourney, but I don't think Midjourney can be used in that way, because it gives you a cool looking picture, but it doesn't give you the details of the picture.
Just for those who are listening, Midjourney is this new AI tool where you can just enter any prompt and gives you a realistic looking image. It's just AI for image and concept art, and it's kind of revolutionizing the industry.
And the other thing about Midjourney and all the AI art tools is, on the ethical level, the fact that they have to use images that they weren't allowed to use in order to make the AI models strong enough is probably going to be their downfall, because there's already several countries that are in the process of studying laws about what are the consequences in terms of copyright. If you make an image that is containing content from another artist who didn't give you permission to use their image, what's the legality of the image that you just produced? And the machine learning algorithm like Midjourney do not work if they don't have such an enormous quantity of like data to learn from. But the data to learn from is data they weren't allowed to use in many cases.
Yeah. Regarding the first point, like you need to reproduce the same object in different angles. Or we could say that you need to reproduce the same scene with the same mood in different uh, times of the day. That's kind of possible, you know. Midjourney has different types of inputs. You can write your text in order to get a result, or you can use the blending mode. So the blending mode is basically you have up to 5 images that you can blend together. You can use one between 2 and 5 images that you add on Midjourney, and it spits out like 4 types of results. It gives you some results. So you can very easily get consistent results in the same mood and the same style if you always use, for example, from the 5 pictures, you put 2 pictures always the same. Let's say you want a sunset at the beach with dogs, or yeah, with dogs running in the beach. I don't know why I give you this example. And it's raining chocolate. Okay? So you put your first image, sunset at the beach, the second one, running dogs at the beach, and the third one's like an image of it's raining chocolate. And whatever other two that you put, because you have a max of 5, you're just going to give you variations of the first 3 ones. So you can have you can have dogs running at the beach and it's raining chocolate at night. In the morning, the ocean's actually blue. So you can kind of create all types of variations of the same thing. So you can kind of work your way around of always having the same object or the same scene with slightly small variations. That's possible. So that's not a problem. So
I was thinking more of like when you look at kind of the technical concept art, like people who design weapons or design vehicles or stuff like that, where you need a level of details and precise details that I don't know that AI art is able to do, at least at the moment. Because when you look at the stuff and it's like from afar, it looks nice, and then you look at the position of a line that just melds into another one, where in a way that it doesn't make sense, or I don't know that it would be able to like properly render stuff that makes sense, like
but
physically makes sense, that you would be able to build. You would still need somebody to like check the image, make it make sense. There's a lot of one of the key ways you can figure out if an image has been AI generated is just to look at the details of the image and be like, wait, the helmet just disappears when it goes there. Huh.
yeah, of course you need to overpaint it a little bit, but 90% of the work is done. Like the light, the AI already picked like a home composition that works, a lighting that works, like the overall mass of the object that you're painting works. All you need to do is kind of overpaint a little bit in order to make it make sense, and it's done. But I would say that around 80 to 90% of the work's done.
Nah. I found I think the thing I think is it's going to change some things in the industry for sure, especially when it comes to like produce me a bunch of thumbnail images of something in a really short amount of time. That probably is going to be used for that. I don't think it's going to ever fully replace actual artists though, because eventually you will need something specific that writing a prompt to get the thing you need is going to take you longer than sitting down with a person and saying, here's what I want, here's what I need, can you make it? And you can look at the thing the person is actually drawing in the process and go, no, a little bit like that and change this. And you can get to there with AI tools, but you're going to need to have like 5 different images generated and then pick the right one and say, yes, but change that thing in the image over and over and over until you finally get the thing you kind of want.
Yeah, I totally agree. We still would need someone to talk to the AI, right? To work with the AI. AI won't replace it completely, people. You still need the artists to interact with the AI and to get some result eventually.
Yeah. And I think there is a level of artistic sensibility that people need to have, because anybody can get on any AI tool and generate anything that they want.
Yeah.
You need somebody who knows what art looks like to generate something that's actually nice and usable, because you can just get a cool image and it doesn't really evoke the sensation and sentiments you want it to have. It's just, it looks cool, but it doesn't fit with the rest of the stuff. So you would still need artists, even if for sure there's already generative image content. Even before Midjourney appeared, there was already ways that you could easily generate images. Even just content aware fill in Photoshop has been there for years, and it's basically kind of made the work easier by just filling in with a picture that kind of looks right.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's no escape from it. Photoshop just added AI to their new version. Did you see it? Photoshop Beta has this new AI feature.
I've not seen it because honestly, I don't use Photoshop anymore mostly.
It's basically Midjourney, but for Photoshop. But it's different, right? It's not Midjourney. It's a little bit different. But they have like this little prompt box where you can write whatever you want, and it generates it for you. It's gonna be part of our everyday life if we like it or not. So the second point that you mentioned, the fact that it's copying artwork from other people, right? The
Yeah.
ethical part, I agree with you 100%. I think that they need some type of rules, some type of, I don't know, some type of ways that allow professional artists to say, hey, I don't want Midjourney to copy my art. And
I
yeah.
I think in order to make it kind of ethical, it should be the opposite. It shouldn't be I don't want you to use my art. It should be Midjourney going, can we use your art? Because you can't take something and go, as long as the person doesn't complain, it's fine.
But it's not realistic. I don't see Midjourney sending like approaching every single artist in the planet and waiting for their answer.
Yeah, they don't necessarily have to like ask people, but if you have a thing that's like opt in specifically, like you could ask, they could work with image hosting websites where you could just say like tick a thing like you can use my image in AI training
Yeah.
models. That could be a solution. But if they don't do that, they have the risk of being faced with legislation that makes them do that, and
Yeah.
then they're not gonna have the tools to do it. Because if and there's a bunch of countries that are in the process of like looking more closely at AI generated artworks. If the artwork that you have produced with Midjourney has no copyrightable value and you still want to use it in a commercial thing, that means that anybody can take your commercial thing and resell it because you have no copyright on the thing.
Makes total sense. I agree.
And that's when you have to ask, is it actually going to have a commercial value? Like, for sure, people who are just making images for their own enjoyment or for, I don't know, their the cover of their streams or whatever, like that's still going to be done and be used by people, but that means the bigger industry that actually wants to make money from AI generated stuff will need to find a specific way that doesn't infringe on other people copyright and will not be breaking the law.
Yeah, because right now Midjourney is scooping the whole internet. It doesn't
Yeah.
ask anyone. It's just going to Google Images. It goes into ArtStation. It goes into your portfolio. I don't know where else it goes. Maybe it goes into Google. No, probably not Google Drive. Come on, but it just goes anywhere else, anywhere that it can. And
Yeah.
and yeah, so maybe that would be a solution. So there's a hosting website where you know that if you put your image in there, you agree to the terms and conditions, and if your image in there, Midjourney will use it. And
Yeah.
there's and Midjourney needs to rely on those hosting websites. Maybe Midjourney has an agreement with 5, 10, 15 hosting websites. Midjourney pays those hosting websites, and if you as a user put your image in there and you agree to the terms and conditions, then your image is going to be used. I think that's a wonderful solution.
And the thing is, I don't know how many artists would be like, yeah, sure, use my images that I spent literal dozens of hours working on to generate. Even if they do get paid, it's still just gonna be like what, 5 cents for somebody who can regenerate a full image. I don't know how many artists would be down to be like, sure, reuse my images. to generate new images.
I don't think the artists would be paid at all. I think the ones who will be paid are the hosting websites. And you as the user, you just agree to the terms and conditions and you don't pay anything. You just put your image in there.
Then that's going to be probably a problem, because if it's like you profit from my hard work, I don't get anything from it, then I'm gonna go to the people who don't actually profit from it and give me the same kind of service.
But that's what Instagram and Facebook do. Like they are profiting out of you. But are you going out of Instagram? Are you going out of Facebook?
I'm not using Facebook. I'm not using Instagram. I mean, I use Instagram because some things are only accessible on Instagram and you can't contact them through any other means. So yes, I have an account on Instagram. It has 0 thing on it.
All right. So I would say that that's an exception, Viviane. That's a very good exception. But like most people, they just use it. Instagram and Facebook. They have this doom scrolling, right? They just stay in there. They don't see any other social media in the world. Did you know that for some people in Brazil, Facebook is the internet? When they buy a smartphone, I'm not joking. When they buy a smartphone, their carrier plan already includes Facebook. You have access to Facebook. You have unlimited access to Facebook. That's already part of your plan, and because it's unlimited, they just use Facebook the whole day, and that's where they consume their news, they consume their entertainment. That's how they connect to people. That's the internet for them. It's really powerful. Yeah, really damn. Yeah, that's the internet for most people.
I think there's going to be a difference between kind of passive income by gathering your data from Facebook and whatever they're reselling the data to ads and stuff, versus actually taking the images that people have made, putting them in a database and selling that database for other people to use. Because even on Facebook and whatever, they're not actually taking the images and the content that you have posted to do anything directly with it. They like extrapolate data from your posting patterns, from the things you liked, and they sell that data, but they don't take the message that you wrote for happy birthday for your mom on her Facebook page and sell that to somebody to use for something else.
Viviane, I would love to continue talking with you. I have so many questions, but believe it or not, we already reached the 3-hour mark.
Have we?
We did, yeah. It went really fast. So, oh, your cat. Show us your cat.
Barnaby. Oh, baby, come here. Hi, this is Barnaby.
Hi, Barnaby.
He's 2-year-old. He's adorable. He broke my internet twice.
That was your solution.
My solution is I got the cables reinstalled up on the ceilings, and then I deployed aluminum sheets in front of the front of the router. And Barnaby hates aluminum for some reason. I don't know why, but it works. Listen, if it works, it works.
Barnaby, the bringer of chaos. All right. So, do you have any final remarks to the audience?
Be nice. That's about it.
All right. So, thank you very much, Viviane. It was a pleasure talking to you. I missed you. Believe it or not, I really was looking forward to this podcast. Yeah. So it was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, guys. So if it's your first time watching the channel, make sure to like and subscribe. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Don't forget that, we do have the BruCast store. Our store is packed with tons of awesome goodies, from t-shirts to stickers to mugs, all featuring designs that celebrate your love for the show. Whether you're looking to treat yourself or finding a perfect gift for a friend, we've got you covered. So we have a promo code special for those who are listening, which is BRU10SAVE, so BRU10SAVE. You can see it on the description below. The website is bru-cast.com/shop. I repeat, bru-cast.com/shop. All links on the description below. We also do have our Brew Clips channel, which is our other channel where we share the most exciting and engaging moments from our podcasts in a shorter format. So if you don't have time to listen to the whole thing, or if you simply want to revisit some of the highlights of the show, make sure to check out the Brew Clips channel. As always, just search for Brew Clips on YouTube or click on the link in the description below. And I think that's about it. So thank you very much. Thank you, Viviane. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and I wish you a nice day. Bye, Viviane.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye, guys. Bye.